A hero is someone who destroys evil and establishes peace in the world. A demon lord is one who rules the world out of darkness through fear. And now, the world once again has two holders of the titles of hero and demon lord. The demon lord shouted to the hero to remember to return to the six. The latter shouted back for her to calm down, calling her an old woman. The hero walked down a street filled with people and demons, all chatting animatedly, interviewing someone. One guy was surprised to be interviewed by passersby, and then he remembered that soon is the day of remembrance in honor of the end of the war. Another said he thought times were great, that it had been 18 years since humans and demons had lived together, and he was 5 years old at the time. The man said that humans and demons are pretty much the same, and that his son was a soldier, but he was gone and would not be coming home. The girl said that the hero Halo legend sacrificed his life to end the war, that she got goosebumps. One guy, when asked about a current hero, struggled to recall the name of that one, naming Corleo. The hero was annoyed. The guy said that the current hero's name seemed to be Corleo. Corleo was confused. He was the hero, for at the time of the previous hero's demise, a mark had appeared on the arm of a 2-month-old infant. The orphan Corleo was taken into the custody of the demon lord MANHWA, and he grew up in the dormitory of the Eastern Army until he was 18 years old. He lived in a time of peace, when there was no need to fight anyone. This was the cause of his confusion. While walking down the street, the hero saw a grandmother with a heavy suitcase. He asked if she needed help moving the suitcase to the other side. She was surprised and agreed. Corleo helped with the suitcase. The old woman thanked him. Looking closer, she asked if he was Luro. He said he was. The hero could not find an answer to his own question, what it means to be a hero. The demon lord MANHWA looked at the hero in surprise. He asked what was the matter. He recalled that he said the same thing, he thought he should join the army. MANHWA told him not to talk nonsense, that he was already 18, he should go to university, and neither he nor she was no longer obliged to serve in the army. She said that, in addition, these things are just a morass, that the titles of demon lord and hero no longer make sense, and obviously the world is a much better place. Corleo sadly lowered his head. He looked at his hand and asked what it still meant to be a hero. He said he was a hero too, just like Halo, and asked if the latter was strong. The woman shouted at him to get that nonsense out of his head. She said that heroes and demon lords were relics of the past and that he shouldn't dwell on it. Corleo was at a museum of hero and demon lord history. He was looking at the statue of the 58th hero Papalopo, who ended the demon lord era of 80 years and established the era of humans. Behind that was the 101st hero Bibip, who had single-handedly fought the advancing enemy army for a full week. Next was Corleo's predecessor, Halo, who ended an 8-year history of enmity with demons and established an era of coexistence. The hero thought about what constituted himself. He thought about what he eats, studies, sleeps, lives without worries, and whether he could be considered a hero. He almost came to a conclusion, but his thoughts were cut short by a woman demon with her daughter. The girl turned to him and asked if she could have her picture taken with him. The three of them took the picture. The mother asked her daughter what to say. The girl thanked Corleo. The one thought he wanted to stop being a hero. The camera printed out their picture. When the hero went outside, someone called out to him. The guy shouted that what a relief that he was here after all. Corleo asked what was wrong. The guy said that the one had to come with them urgently to the Eastern Army headquarters. A man stood in front of him. The hero was told that the one's name was Evan Allgreen, and that hero was from another world, he assured him. Upon seeing the mark on Corleo's arm, Evan said he couldn't believe there were other heroes. The boy showed the same mark on his arm. He said the hero was Evan Allgreen, and apparently during a battle with a demon lord, he was hit by some sort of teleporting attack and transported to their world. Corleo saw the hero's mark and was shocked that he was indeed a real hero. Suddenly, Mummy appeared. She shouted, asking what was even going on here. Before she could do anything, Evan plunged his sword into the wall right next to her. Everyone was shocked. A hero from another world shouted that it was a demon lord. He was grabbed and asked what he was doing. The one asked to be released. He said that he could hardly believe in the peaceful coexistence of humans and demons, but definitely not that they would also get along with a demon lord. He let the sword out of his hands, fell to the floor. Evan apologized and said he meant no harm, that his body was moving on instinct, so he asked to hear him out. He shouted that very soon, in a few days, a demon lord would arrive in this world bringing disasters. He said that it was his own fault, for he had failed to finish the one. He said that the demon lord was strong, and it was unlikely that anyone besides him would be able to defeat him. Evan shouted that once he had destroyed him, they could do whatever they wanted with him, but until then he begged very much to be let go. Everyone looked at him in bewilderment. One of the demons asked to wait a second. He said that the hero from the other world was rubbish, and that he must have scribbled the mark on his arm himself. The other guy asked to wait a minute. He asked him to tell him when the hero arrived in this world. Evan replied that, if his memory was correct, it was about 8 days ago. The lad queried whether he was saying it had been 8 days. He said that as a top graduate of the International Political Studies Department of the Carnegie University Law School, he would express his opinion that the existence of the two heroes could violate the laws of the universe and cause catastrophic rifts in the planet itself, and yet it had been 8 whole days and they had no idea what could happen to the world. He shouted that they must not waste a second and should execute him now. One of the boys said he couldn't believe it. Another said that the one spoke convincingly. Evan said that if we take it as true that he is a real hero, then his words about another demon lord coming also become credible, which means that after killing him, they will have to deal with the problem of 2 demon lords alone. The clever guy shouted, he looked tense. Evan shouted that he would defeat the demon lord without delay, that after that they could at least kill him, that he didn't care and it would be better for everyone. Corleo thought about that moment. Looking at the man who called himself a hero, he felt his heart flutter. Evan was sitting in an underground dungeon. A hero had come to him. Evan asked him if he was the hero of this world and what his name was. The man replied that his name was Corleo. He wondered. Evan turned to him and said that it was a strange world they had. He said that things here were so different from his world that he could not believe that men with demons and a hero with a demon lord lived hand in hand. He asked if it was true that they didn't have tag magic either, adding that it was strange. The hero asked again about the mark magic. Evan held out his hand, and a bright flame appeared from it. He said that if they knew about the mark's magic, they obviously didn't lock him in this dungeon without a single trap, and that's the usual logic. Corleo was very surprised. He marveled at what had happened. A hero from another world asked what he needed. The one interjected. Evan said he believed the one had come to him for a reason. The one hesitated a little. He said that he wanted to talk to another hero, and that it wasn't often that he got the chance to do so. The fellow replied that it was clear to him now. He suggested a change of scenery, and suddenly they were in a forest. The hero did not understand what was happening and how it happened. Evan said that the magic of the mark was also capable of such things, so that he did not worry, and that he would return to his cell. He said he had never met any heroes besides himself, and he thought this tree would do the trick. He touched the tree and created 2 swords from it. He offered to chat while sparring. Their fight began. Evan asked the hero if he had learnt to wield a sword. Corleo was surprised. He replied that of course he hadn't, and was told there was no need. The guy replied to him that those were impressive skills then. The hero asked in surprise if that was true. The fellow replied that it was indeed true, and took the sword tighter. Suddenly Corleo asked what the hero even meant. Evan was very surprised. He asked again. Corleo said that once the heroes of their world also fought the demon lords, that peace was achieved only 18 years ago. He said that he was doing nothing of the sort now, that he was not strong or even fighting. He said that he had no hatred of demons in him, that he did not want to fight them, and understood perfectly well that peace was always better than war. The hero said that he still envies Evan, that he feels like a phony, and feels like quitting everything. The man replied that he didn't know the answer here and the hero would have to find it himself. He said for the hero not to look for it in others. Corleo wondered what a hero was, and who was worthy to be one. He thought about how he still did not know the answers to these questions. As he was walking down the street, he heard someone shouting asking him to stop. There were some boys in the back alley. He saw 2 boys pushing a 3rd boy. The hero turned away, about to walk on. He wondered what he should do, which made him wrinkle his face. Finally, he asked the boys what they were doing here. They were very frightened when they recognized the hero. He said that it was lame to attack one person in a crowd, and that fighting between humans and demons was out of fashion. The boy asked him if he was showing off. The other tried to stop him. The boy who was being bullied thanked the hero. The abusers, calling Corleo names, decided to get the hell out of here. One of them said he wasn't running away, calling the hero a phony. The man warily turned round. Corleo and Mamama glanced over. The demon lord said she heard he got into a fight last night. Toth replied that he didn't hit anyone and just gave a stern reprimand. She screamed, asking what kind of idiot he was, what he would do if he got into trouble. Did he think he was a hero? Corleo interjected. He said he was a hero after all. He asked where else that mark on his right arm came from, and what it makes him then. He said Mama always says it's silly or ridiculous. Doesn't want to listen to him. He asked if she ever told him what it means to be a hero, adding that he himself no longer realizes what he is. He said that if this is what being born a hero leads to, it would be better if he had never been born. The woman took hold of his sleeve. She apologized and said she had not taken his words seriously. She said she didn't even realize it was eating him up so much, but she had her own ideas and they were all born out of love for him, and now she would always be ready to listen to him. Mom asked that he never again say that he didn't want to be born. Corleo let go of her hand and ran away, leaving her alone. As he stopped, he wondered what on earth he was doing, what a pathetic sight this was, and it wasn't like he was 5 years old anymore. Tears flowed down the hero's cheeks. He remembered the sad face of the demon lord and decided that he should apologize. Suddenly, it became dark outside the windows. Evan appeared in front of him. The demon lord was also surprised that it was suddenly night. The boys ran up to her, shouting that there was trouble. They shouted that something was coming towards them. They interjected. They shouted that something colossal was heading in their direction. The hero fell to the ground in front of Evan. He asked what was happening. He replied that he had moved them here with mark magic and they were now hovering above the water. Corleo said that was not what he meant, that it was also important but not the point. He asked why the man had brought it with him. Evan said it was coming. He said it was the demon lord end. The hero looked away fearfully. A huge monster was walking towards them, shouting incomprehensible sounds, words, laughing. His huge head stared at the two heroes. The monster turned to Evan. Corleo's nose was bleeding. He was very frightened. The hero from the other world said that the demon lord was much smaller, and he must have spent a mountain of energy to move here. He said it was over and used the magic of his mark. The demon screamed. With a loud shriek, it began to speciate, shrinking in size. Eventually, it took the shape of a cube slightly larger than a man. Evan turned to the hero and said that he had brought him here for one purpose. He said that this purpose was to kill. He explained that the existence of many heroes and demon lords in one world could really split it apart, that if he got rid of Corleo and that thing, there would only be one hero and demon lord left in the world, and he himself would settle in this world. Evan said that his home world was now uninhabitable, and even if he killed the demon lord, only death awaited him. So he moved here with the help of a magic marker. He asked Corleo for permission to ask a question before he died. The latter was bleeding from his nose and mouth. Evan asked what it meant to be a hero. Mom noticed that everything had stopped. She asked what was going on here. The boys replied that they weren't sure themselves, but a recon team had spotted a giant life form, Evan and Corleo, at the given coordinates. The demon lord was terrified. She interrogated the hero and then fell to the ground. The boy asked what was wrong with her. The one replied that something was wrong with her left arm. There was a mark on the arm. A demon lord from another world was in front of the heroes. Evan repeated the question about what it means to be a hero. He told Corleo that he was asking him. The latter replied that he did not know. He told him to look for his own answers. The demon lord became more active and almost hit Evan. The one thought that the demon had recovered, used the power of the demon's mark from this world. He thought about the fact that he never knew what a hero was, that he had some ideas as a child, but in the end he never understood anything. He thought that a hero is strong and fights his enemies, that is what heroes should be like. As he looked at Corleo, he realized that this was the answer. He wondered what the problem was and what he didn't understand. Evan mentally repeated that a hero is strong and fights his enemies. He thought that heroes are always protecting something. Suddenly, Corleo threw Evan aside and jumped straight at the demon lord. Evan had the power to defend himself, and Corleo's kindness was what he cast aside, deeming it useless. Evan remembered what he was thinking there. He realized that he had been thinking about heroes. Corleo was torn in two. A hero from another world, looking at him, thought he was coming out. He had always wanted to be a hero. He thought that, in spite of all this, no wonder he couldn't understand in any way. Opening his eyes, the hero saw Mama. She was shouting something. Next to her, he saw Evan. They were discussing that the demon lord had been defeated. Corleo's eyes closed. Opening his eyes again, he saw his hand. He wondered if he was alive. Evan said he would give his life to cure him. He said he killed people, that friends or enemies didn't matter, that he killed everyone he needed to, that his world was cruel and it was impossible to survive there otherwise, that he shouldn't be considered a hero. He said that a hero fights to protect. Evan said that a hero is such not because of his strength, not because of the battles he has fought, that he gets stronger to protect and fights to protect. He said he had forgotten it, tried to forget it, but as long as valor is tortured in a man's heart, everyone will call him a hero. He said to make Corleo proud of himself, for he is the truest hero. Evan stood alone in the void. Someone called out to him loudly. The hero turned to Irene, Cyn, and Grisha. He apologized and said that there was nothing he could defend. Evan continued to be called. He asked if he could join them. He was invited to chat again all together. Mum was crying over the reanimated Corleo. The hero Corleo is saved from certain death by the magic of Evan's mark. He is 18 years old, 172 centimeters tall. His hobby is napping, and he is not in a relationship. Demon Lord MANHWA took custody of Corleo 18 years ago and raised him from infancy. She is 38 years old, 146 centimeters tall. Her hobby is napping, and she has been in a relationship. She held out a piece of paper to the hero. The man asked what it was. She told him to come to this address at 7 p.m. and she would have something to tell him there. He asked why and if it could not be said now. The woman replied that this is the kind of attitude girls don't like. 3 days had passed since that incident, but Corleo was still distraught. He realized the feelings in his soul and was recognized as a hero. He had been told what he had always longed to hear, or rather, so it seemed to him. However, he still did not feel like a hero. The boy thought that maybe he lacked confidence, lacked courage. He remembered Evan's words that he was the truest hero. Corleo hesitated and stopped right in the middle of the street. He wondered if he was really allowed to think he was a hero. Some guy approached him. It was the boy whom Corleo had helped. The boy cried. He said he just wanted to thank him for his help. The hero realized what kind of boy it was by remembering this situation. The one kept crying and bowed low. He said he was glad Corleo was a hero. Toth waved the boy after him. He looked closely at the mark on his arm. After standing for a while longer, he ran. He ran, stumbling along the road, running like a child on his birthday. Finally, out of breath, he came to Mummy. She was surprised. She asked him if he had really run all the way. He, panting, replied that he had, sort of. When he looked back, he saw Memorial Cemetery number 6. He realized that they were standing at the grave where the great hero Halo was resting. The boy was surprised that they were at the grave of his predecessor. He thought of his predecessor Halo ending the bloody 8-year history of enmity with demons and establishing an era of coexistence. The demon lord reported that she had 2 things to say. It was night, the month was visible in the sky. The woman said that defense of anything is inextricably linked to self-sacrifice. The hero was surprised. She said that she was a demon lord, but a weak one, that if the hero's army had wanted to blow her head off then, she would have been long dead. She said that, however, Halo proved to be a sincere pacifist, but a ridiculously virtuous man, willing to sacrifice himself to protect others, that in the end, he gave his life to end the war. Mama asked what about Corleo. She said she could clearly see signs of Halo in him. He was surprised. She asked him not to look at her like that. The woman looked angry. The hero asked why she felt so strongly about stopping him. The woman replied that he should not make her say that one out loud. She recalled how Halo had said that she wanted the next hero to live in an age of peace, so that no life would be unjustly taken anywhere. He said that if his life was enough to bring it about, such a price was not a pity to pay, that he was glad to be a hero. Mama tearfully told Corleo that she did not want him to suffer. She said that it was okay to be brave without overdoing it, that he should run when he had to, not protect everyone else, that there was no shame in it. The hero asked what had come over her. The demon lord continued to cry. Corleo remembered the look on her face when he almost died and said he understood. He made some gestures with his hands. Mama said he had messed up, that to pray you had to cross 4 times and draw a circle twice. Toth asked her to untie. He said she was showing off here after all the crying. Thoth screamed, asking what he said, asking him to repeat himself, calling him a blowhard. The hero said he had something to tell her too. He said that afternoon the demon boy thanked him. He said that he had always thought he had become a hero, and no good had come of it, but today for the first time he began to think differently, and was even glad to be a hero. The woman looked at him with incomprehension. Corleo wanted to explain everything and say it differently, but he didn't know how. He remembered how Mama had taken his hand and thought. He said he shouldn't have said he didn't want to be born and apologized. Night was enveloping the city. The hero walked from the graveyard. The demon lord shouted for him to stop. The one asked if she wanted to get emotional again. The woman replied that she wasn't. She said she had to tell him 2 things in case he hadn't forgotten, and the second was the most important. They glanced over. She wanted to explain what she was getting at, but Corleo noticed something strange. He didn't understand what was going on. Mom asked what the feeling was. Looking up, they saw an eye. The light of the moon was blocked. The demon lord and the hero were confused. In front of them, a large black monster stood over the grave. The woman said she wanted to deliver Evan's dying message. The man said it was only his speculation, but more anomalies awaited their world. He said that in case of the unexpected, he would share some of his powers with Corleo. He said to make him stronger and protect everything he could protect. The monster shouted loudly to the hero. It opened its maw wide and aimed at Corleo, but he managed to recoil. Mummy shouted to him. The monster turned to the hero again. He wondered what this creature was and why it wanted him. Suddenly he remembered how the demon lord of another world had chopped him in half. The boy was very frightened. His mum shouted for him to run, that she didn't know why, but the monster's target was him. She kept shouting for him to run. The hero did so. Turning around, the creature addressed the demon lord. Corleo continued to run as he suddenly turned around when he heard the woman. He realized that her arm had been torn off. The hero attacked the creature in a rage. He ran up and punched the monster, shouting that it was a slouching dog. Mum was lying unconscious at the monument, bleeding. The hero was angry. He thought he must give battle, must win. He thought that the woman was too seriously wounded. He should take her to a doctor, otherwise she would not survive. He didn't know what to do, whether to grab her and run away. He decided that he could not run away, that he had to fight. He decided that he had a duty to fight and asked the monster if it understood him. The creature asked if Evan. Suddenly someone jumped high and struck the monster with a sword. The weapon passed through the air with a sound. The man pulled Corleo aside and asked about the situation. The guy was shocked. He asked who the man was. He noticed the Central Army uniform on him and wondered who the old man was. The man repeated the question about the situation. The hero shouted that Mamama's left arm was torn off, bleeding profusely, that this eyed dog came out of nowhere, so he wasn't entirely sure himself, but kind of like she needed him and she was the only one here. The monster was wounded but kept moving and making noises. The man realized that it was regenerating and one cut wouldn't do the trick here. He told the boy to stay behind him, but to be in sight of the creature and distract it. He said there is nothing more boring than a difficult path. Suddenly the monster began to shapeshift. It grew larger and opened its maw wide. The man said that only a fool would choose to take the fast path. He confidently went at the monster and quickly attacked it with his sword. The creature broke into small pieces. Corleo was shocked. The man asked him who he was. The man introduced himself. The man said he would take the woman to the hospital right away. He said he would go to the military hospital on the other side of the bridge, that it was 5 kilometers away, and called out to follow him. He said that he had a serious conversation with the boy. The latter was puzzled. Mum woke up with her head rewound. The man turned to her with a smile. He said they hadn't seen each other in a long time and said hello. It was the former commander-in-chief of the Demon Lord Army, now the general of the Central Force Army of the hero and Demon Lord, Panelo. The Demon Lord was very surprised. He told her to try to move less, that the anesthetic was still working, but she had received little blood. The woman screamed, asking where Corleo. She looked frightened. Panelo said the man got there faster than he thought. A hero appeared from behind the door. The man said he would get to the point. He said he was in such a hurry to call Corleo to the Central Army base. He explained that there were 2 reasons, namely to strengthen their ranks and to provide information. He said that after the last incident in which the 2 of them were involved, anomalies had been spotted in various locations, and that I dog as an example, but that was not their main concern. Panelo said that so far various witnesses have reported several instances of alleged heroes and demon lords appearing from other worlds. He said that they were already keeping one such hero under lock and key at the center, that no one knew what lay ahead. He asked if Corleo would have the courage to help them in battle. The man and the hero sat on a bench. The man said he hadn't been to Karn in ages, and he had a friend here who owned a bakery. He said that, to be honest, he had run himself ragged today and his back hurt a lot. The hero sat with his hands clasped together. He leaned down, covering his face with his hands. Panelo apologized and said that if he had arrived 10 seconds earlier, Mrs. Mama would not have lost her arm. The boy began to speak. He said that more and more people were beginning to call him a hero, and he was grateful to them, that he had always wanted to be one, so he was truly grateful. He said that as soon as he should have seen that thing, his heart raced and he was scared at the thought that he might die again. The hero said that if he hadn't run the wrong way, then things might have been different. Tears were flowing from his eyes. He said he was trying to escape at that time. As life went on around them, they sat on a bench. The man turned to the hero. He said that he had been in a situation where a decision had to be made instantly and had come up with several possible options. He said that the answer was quite simple: defeat the monster and take Mrs. Mama to the hospital, that's all. He said he was sure the thought was going round in his head, and he really thought he shouldn't say why the other man couldn't do that. Panelo said that defending someone requires one to be strong, and maybe that is the point. He said it was up to him to join them or not, and no one was forcing him. He remembered something. The man said that tomorrow at 7 he would be traveling to Central from East Sirona Station, and maybe he should go and buy some bread. Mama told Corleo everything and said that this was the message Evan had asked her to give. She said he talked like a jerk, came over like a jerk, dragged them into it all like a jerk, demanded Corleo get stronger, but she sent him away and gave him a good smack off his hand. She said with a smile that now that arm was gone and asked if she got what she deserved. The hero shouted that it wasn't funny. They glanced over at each other. The woman asked if he would go there, to Central. The hero wanted to answer, but Mama interrupted him. She asked him to wait, told him not to answer, told him not to speak, told him to shut his mouth. She asked first to be allowed to tell him an old story, asked him to shut his mouth and listen. She said that she and Halo had been in a romantic relationship, and no one knows that but them. Corleo was surprised. He said they didn't need to talk about it. The woman shouted that she had told him to shut his mouth and listen. After calming down, she told him that she and Halo had started a neutral army, that it soon became the Demon Hero Coalition Army and took its present form. She said that of course there were dissenters, especially among the demons, but that Halo sacrificed himself to show how much he longed for coexistence, that this was how he died. She said she then took custody of an orphan who turned out to be a hero, Corleo. The woman said that as far as he knew, 18 years had passed since then. She said that after losing Halo she felt devastated, but that spending time with the hero had sort of begun to fill that abyss. She said she began to see Halo in him more and more often, a willingness to sacrifice himself without a backward thought, the so-called valiant heart of the hero. Mama said that she was scared, that she dreaded the thought of another loss, and so wanted to keep him out of danger as long as possible, tried to reassure him with peace and quiet so that he would not be hurt. She said that his will, dreams, aspirations, actions, decisions, and life experiences, it was she who held back their manifestations, and yet he had already found his way. Corleo looked at her. He said he wanted to become stronger. The demon lord replied that she understood. Looking at him, she said he was naughty and smiled. Corleo thought about how a hero is someone who destroys evil and establishes peace in the world, and a demon lord is someone who rules the world out of darkness by using fear. He thought that the world now had two title holders again, hero and demon lord. He thought that the era of the hero and the demon lord had come to an end and the world was beginning to enter a new era. Panelo asked the boy to answer who he was. The hero thought that this vague era of change would later have a new name. Corleo answered that he was a hero. The continent of Persimmot consists of a main cross-shaped landmass and various islands. Before peace came 18 years ago, lived in the west and the demon in the east. For 800 years, there was an intense war over the center of the continent. Corleo and Panelo were currently traveling to the central Persimmot from the east to meet a hero from another world. They were traveling in a train. Panelo interjected about the magic of the mark. The hero replied that Evan had sort of said he shared some of his powers with him. He said that Evan had a power called tag magic, that it allowed him to soar, chop things up, create fire. The man said that he had never heard of such a thing, and asked the hero if it came out that he now possessed it. The man replied that was a good question and he didn't know himself. A girl came in to see them. She said hello and asked if they wanted to eat. Panelo raised his hand. He said he would take a mug of hot chai and asked what about Corleo. The man replied that he would too. The guy with the glasses said he would take an iced coffee. Hero and Panelo sat across from each other and drank tea. The man asked if the boy Evan was strong. Hero replied that he probably was, and in fact even very. The man asked who was stronger, him or that hero. Corleo wondered. Panelo said that unfortunately, their army is hardly a military force and they are more of a police force. He said that even though it may sound old-fashioned, he believed that a man should be strong. He said that Halo was strong and it was rare to find men of that caliber. He turned to the hero and said to the hero contained in Central the hero was kind of friendly, but he had seen what happens when he was not. He said that the boy was now on his way to a place where the situation might turn out the same way. Toth wondered. He said he didn't want to get strong to beat someone up, that he needed strength to protect people. He said that he didn't want to regret anything because of his weakness, that he would plow like hell to achieve that goal, and would never get off the path. He took to the air and shouted that such a hero he would become. He himself and Panelo were shocked at what had happened. The train workers at this time noticed that the coal had run out. Suddenly, the other passengers heard a scream. Corleo fell to the floor. He asked fearfully what it was. A phone call was heard. It was announced over the loudspeaker that the train would make an emergency stop because of a coal shortage. They said that coal would be brought in about an hour and they apologized for the inconvenience. Panelo was surprised. He told the boy that this was perfect. He invited the one to come out and said that if this strange art of tagging magic, he wanted to figure it out for himself. The hero agreed but asked how. The man smiled in response. He said he wanted to do it with training. He said they had an hour and suggested that in that time they try to force him to use his right hand. He told Corleo to attack as if his life depended on it. The train stood still. Panelo easily threw the hero to the ground. He said that his attacks were weak. The man replied that it was natural and he had never hit anyone in his life. He asked if the man was too calm. The one replied that he said to attack as if his life depended on it, and to use his mark magic. The hero said it's not like he doesn't know how to. Panelo asked if he would also tell his opponents that he was out of shape and asked them to wait a bit. He asked if the boy went to Central to part with his life. Corleo got angry. He decided to try again. The little girl on the train was bored. Panelo adjusted his tie. He said that the loading of coal was about to come to an end and it was time to go back, that it was a good opportunity to realize his level. He said he hoped the hero could become stronger. Corleo thought about the fact that he was weak. He thought that was understandable. That was why he was overwhelmed with regret that he needed strength to protect anyone he wanted to. He thought he didn't want people crying over him, and he didn't want to cry over his weakness himself. When asked if he had gone to Central to part with his life, he mentally answered in the negative. He said he was going because his life depended on it. Suddenly his marker lit up. They were surprised. The hero realized she was glowering, reacting to his emotions. Panelo said they would prolong the fight for half a minute and offered to attack. Corleo thought about the fact that he had run a good distance that time, and when he had hit that dog, it had flown a lot further away than it should have. He figured his body was moving better than usual. Smoke billowed from the train's chimney. The hero thought that he did not know what power lurked in the magic of the mark, that in general he did not know much, but Panelo had said to make him use his right hand, so he would aim at it. He swung, aiming to the right. The man thought he was fast, got a boost from the mark, covered 20 meters in 2 seconds with time to accelerate, but hitting to the right was too obvious a tactic. He had time to bounce. Corleo, falling, screamed. Suddenly he realized that he had almost fallen off the wall, and he screamed even louder. The man managed to grab his arm. He said he was going to parry all of his blows, but for now suggested that he return to his seats. The train sounded the horn and they went back inside. The guy with the glasses asked for jasmine tea. Panelo said that the hero they had detained had been sent to the station, that they had met only once, but he had not been told a word about the magic of the mark, which meant that information might be withheld from them. He said that in essence the hero felt favor with them but remained cautious. He asked the boy to dispense with provocation. The latter replied that of course. He said that any jerk would be better than the demon lord, that he would try to get along with him. The men were surprised. He asked if he had said that before. Corleo grew up in a military environment. Instead of school, he attended special military courses. The boy lived in a certain bubble. And since he didn't go to regular school, he had no friends, much less romantic interests, and the only woman close to him was his foster mother Mama. They were met by Alicia Woolpool, who was a hero. She greeted Corleo and said it was cool. She said she was worried and his arrival made her happy. She asked why he was all beat up. The hero was very surprised. The girl said she was glad to meet him and extended her hand to him. The one was puzzled. He agreed and extended his hand in return. They both shouted in surprise. Tears appeared on the girl's cheeks. Alicia cried and ran forward. It was in Central Persimmon, Rita County. Corleo shouted to the girl to wait. He shouted that they had left old Panelo behind. He asked what she was doing. The girl kept running. The hero shouted that he was rarely in Central, so he didn't know the way. He shouted that he told her to wait, asking why she was running away in the first place. Alicia did not stop. She yelled back that he roared like a rabid animal and pounced on her. Corleo thought to himself that if she was running away because of him, he had no choice and he had to stop her somehow. He shouted that the red light was on. A girl running in the middle of the zebra crossing asked what that meant. He asked if she was aware that anyone crossing the road at a red light would die. Alicia was frightened and stopped. She continued to cry. The hero said that if she didn't calm down and talk to him, she would probably die. The girl screamed that she would talk, that she would talk. In the phone box, the hero explained that it was just the two of them at the moment, that they were in South Rita County 10-7. He told Alicia that he had called Central Headquarters on the phone, and they said they would be here in about half an hour. The girl asked again on the phone. He said it was a device that allowed them to talk to people at a great distance. He asked if she didn't know. Alicia was very surprised. They sat on the bench in silence. Corleo turned to the girl. She responded. He introduced himself and said that he was 18 years old and had actually already met a harem from another world. He said that in this world the war was over and he was very weak because he had never fought in his life. He asked what about her. The girl said that she was Alicia Woolpool and she was 24 years old. They continued to be silent. The hero thought about the fact that he had cleared up the misunderstanding, but she still didn't want to talk much, and there was so much he wanted to ask her about, like the magic of the mark. He thought that maybe he should subtly bring it up somehow. Suddenly Alicia said that she was very weak too, and had been on the run with her mum all this time. She said that she had to run away because of her weakness all these 24 years. She asked if she could say something. The hero replied to let her speak, of course. The girl said that her mum died, and before she died, she told her to live. She said that her mum was the only person close to her. She cried again and said that she had nothing else to live for, and now she was also in another world she didn't understand. Alicia said that in general she wanted to ask. She asked what she should do now. The hero hesitated for a moment. The street lamp shone on them. Suddenly the girl clutched her head. She apologized and said that Corleo was 6 years younger than her, so she shouldn't behave like that. The one said that he understood her, that he kind of had a mum too, and when she got hurt because of him, he thought to himself that he wanted to be stronger because he was too weak. The girl looked at him. He said the guys from headquarters would be here soon, so he offered to wait at the park entrance. The girl agreed. Between them on a bench sat some man in a cylinder. The hero suggested that on the way they decide what they would do next and asked if it was what her mum would want. She answered in the affirmative. They got up from the bench. Corleo thought about how Panelo had said that he had met her before, but she hadn't mentioned the mark magic at all, which meant that she might have been withholding information. He asked the girl why she didn't talk about the tag magic. The one replied that as she realized he already knew about it, and besides, she wasn't in the habit of revealing all the cards to those she couldn't fully trust. The hero replied that it was quite logical. Suddenly the man snapped his fingers. The heroes turned around. On the lantern, they saw an eye that was staring intently at them. Corleo wondered if it was the same creature as that dog and where it had come from. The monster flew at them. The hero apologized to Alicia and shouted that he was going to touch her. He took her in his arms and ran, running away from the creature. The girl apologized and asked if she was heavy. Corleo shouted that there was such a thing, but it was nothing and she shouldn't worry. He thought about their situation, that Alicia, a self-proclaimed weakling, and he, also a real weakling and one enemy. He thought that he didn't know how to use sign magic, that he had no way to get rid of the monster. The hero didn't realize whether he should hit the monster, kick it, wait for help, or run away. He remembered Panelo's words that actually, the answer was quite simple. He asked the girl if she could run to the entrance. She asked what about himself. Corleo replied that he was going to kick the monster's arse. He mentally apologized to Alicia, thinking of all the hardships in life that awaited her. He hoped that all her hard work would be rewarded someday. He asked her to live. The hero thought that in that case, one day it would happen. He thought that she would find her reason to live on. Alicia thought of his hands trembling with fear, his hand quite like her mother's. She turned to Corleo. She thanked him. The creature dropped to the ground and scrambled right into her. The girl shouted the monster burrowed underground. She turned to the hero. She said she would lure it to the surface and he would take care of the rest. The hero asked how she was going to do it. Alicia used the magic of Gagarikarika's mark, the power of strengthening. She struck the ground with her fist so hard that all the surrounding rocks broke apart and the monster flew upwards. The hero was shocked, including the fact that she called herself weak. The creature screamed. The girl shouted to Corleo to act now. The one shouted that he had no idea how to use the magic of the mark. He asked what he should do. Alicia replied that the mark reacted to emotions, that he should try to represent himself as clearly as possible. The hero thought that he would just have to do it, that there was no time to practice. He cried out with a plea to Evan to lend him strength. He pushed himself off the ground and jumped very high to the creature's level. Alicia was surprised that he took off. Corleo couldn't believe he had done it and thought it made too much noise. The monster screamed and opened its maw wide. The hero grabbed the monster by its tail and with a scream he threw it at the lantern. The monster was impaled. Corleo thought that he had defeated it, that he should land, just to soar once more. Suddenly he realized he couldn't do that. He fell on the girl with a scream, asking her to be safe. Alicia said it was good that she made it in time. She asked if it was true that he had used up his entire supply of tag. The hero questioned in surprise that it was. He thought it reminded him of that training session with Panelo, and thought he hadn't rested at all. Suddenly he realized he was losing consciousness. Alicia said she had a request, that it was still hard for her to be on her own. Holding the hero in her arms, she asked if he would be her reason for living. Corleo interjected. His eyes began to close, but he managed to say yes. Someone called out to Corleo. He opened his eyes. Alicia was standing in front of him. She said it was great that the hero was awake. The girl said that he had slept all day. Toth asked where he was. Alicia replied that it was Central's military hospital. She said that the military took him right after all this, and that's how they ended up here. The hero was surprised. He remembered fighting that thing. He remembered the mark magic and asked if he was able to use it. He said that he had lost the blackout afterwards. The girl answered in the affirmative. She said that she needed to pass on Uncle Panelo's words. The man said that as soon as Corleo woke up, they would hold a meeting to discuss future plans. He told them to come to room 3 when the lad's condition was normal. Alicia said that was the end of the quote. She was embarrassed as she recalled asking if the hero would be her reason for living. She said that she said something to him before he passed out and asked if he remembered it. The hero replied that he didn't remember anything at all, and asked again what she had said. At the central military headquarters of the Demon Lord and Hero's army in meeting room number 3, Panelo spoke. He suggested that they organize their data to begin with. He said that if they structured the situation, they face 2 problems. He said that the first is the fact that heroes and demon lords appear from other worlds, that the extent of the incident and the number of uninvited guests are still unknown. The man said that the second was the monsters with an eye, that the creatures, which resembled a dog and a bat, turned into white sand after death and scattered in the wind. He said that these life forms resembled something like the demon lord Enda met by the hero. He said that there was a third problem for the heroes. They wondered. Panelo told someone that he could go in. A guy with the mark of a demon lord walked into the office. The man said it was Escaba dap Mistrea, that they had detained him hours ago, and he was a demon lord from another world. The boy said that just then the man introduced him that his name was Escaba and he was in the same conditions as Alicia. He said he suddenly found himself in a different place and realized that something was wrong. The hero thought about the fact that there was another guest besides Alicia and also a demon lord of demons. He couldn't believe that they were just appearing one after another. Panelo said that it turns out there are 2 in total and they have something in common. He said they all appeared from other worlds due to external factors. He said that after some discussion, he and the Central Army took into consideration the possibility that someone was behind the situation and decided to find him. The man said that for the time being, the 3 of them would join the Central Army and work to solve the demons and heroes case, working as a team of 3. He said for them to be ready to move forward on the case as soon as they received more information. Panelo told everyone to disperse. Escaba entered the dormitory room of the Central Army. He said they would live and sleep here and they were lucky. He said that the hero's world was much more advanced than his, that this electricity thing was especially useful, and that they had light even at night. He looked at Alicia, who was hiding fearfully behind Corleo. The latter shouted at her in embarrassment. The girl asked her to forgive her, saying she had no malice. The demon asked if she trusted him. He said he understood, and in fact her reaction was quite natural, that demon lords and heroes don't usually get along. He said for her to just think about it, that there are 2 heroes and only 1 demon lord, which means he's out of place here. Escaba said he wanted them to believe him, that he wasn't going to antagonize anyone, that he just wanted to go back to his world, wanted to go home. He lowered his gaze. Corleo turned to him. He suggested that the 3 of them sit down and talk, adding that, after all, they still knew nothing about each other. All agreed to do so. They sat down at a round table. The demon said that means it all started with a hero named Evan and a demon lord named End. He said that Corleo had had a hard time, as had Alicia and her mum. The hero thought about the fact that the latter was hiding information about the mark magic from them, means he still doesn't trust them. He thought it made sense, and the same was true for himself. Escaba said that about him, in his world almost all the demons had been killed by humans, that he was one of the few survivors, and to be honest he was still a little scared. He said he is still having the conversation with them because he wants them to believe him. He said that the thought of his friends fighting out there somewhere while they are talking squeezes him with helplessness, that more than anything it hurts him to realize that they are suffering. The demon said that this was why he had to go back to his own world, that everyone was waiting for him. Panelo was watching them from the window. Someone asked him if he had decided to give the demon his freedom. The man saw Ben, a staff officer of the Demon Lord's army and a hero, in front of him. Panelo said that he himself still did not fully understand Escaba's character. Ben asked if it wasn't dangerous to keep him around Corleo and Alicia in that case. The man replied that one could not get results without a little risk. Ben thought that was old-fashioned. Panelo offered to test him. Ben wanted to stop him, but the man had already thrown some pipes at the boys from the window. Alicia looked up and was frightened. Suddenly, Escaba's shadow rose. Several of his shadows lengthened and rose up. He was able to kick the pipes away from the table. The demon said he forgot to mention, but his mark magic adds weight to his shadows and allows him to control them. He said you can never reveal too many of your cards. Corleo reflected on his words. Alicia thanked the demon. The one replied that it was just little things. The hero turned to Escaba. He said that he still could not fully trust him, for the other demon lord from the other world was a real monster. He said he wanted to believe in the demon's words. He suggested that if there was anyone who was behind what was happening, to deal with him so that he could return to his friends. Night had fallen. Corleo was sleeping in his bed when suddenly he heard someone calling him. He got up and went to the window. In the window opposite, he saw Escaba. He said that he had found something cool and asked the hero to come here soon. He was surprised and said that it was nighttime. In spite of this, he went down the corridor. The lantern switched on and the hero walked into the room. He saw a trail of blood leading to the door. In the shadows stood Escaba, who also had blood on his cheek. He said that Corleo had been walking for some time. On the floor lay Alicia unconscious, from whom the streak of blood came. The hero's mind froze. For a moment, in his mind, a very similar situation as when Mama was wounded. Corleo had struck Escaba. He ran after him to hit him again, but he recoiled. The girl jerked her arm slightly. The hero shouted, asking what the demon was doing. The one grinned achidically. Corleo thought it was real. He hoped that all the inhabitants of the other world would be as friendly as Alicia. He thought of a hero and a demon lord destined to fight each other, that this was reality, clear and brutal. He asked the demon what he was doing. The hero crouched beside the girl, and Escaba immediately dashed to the other side of the room. Corleo thought about the fact that Alicia had lost consciousness, that she was bleeding only from her head. The demon, touching her face, said that it was painful, that he thought the hero was only a whiny weakling, but it turns out it was not. The hero shouted loudly to him. He asked if it was his doing. Escaba said it was and asked what would happen if it was. Corleo replied that in that case he would not tolerate it. Toth stated that it would be better if the hero said he would kill him. He offered to talk about boredom, saying that the guy really lived in a boring world. He said it didn't matter, that it was the flickering lights here that pissed him off. Demon suggested that they continue this whole thing outside. He broke a window and they started falling down. Corleo, as he fell, thought of the one using his shadow to throw him outside. He was horrified to realize that he was falling. When he was almost to the ground, he flew somewhere to the side and landed normally. Escaba said that from what that man said, Corleo's tag magic was levitation. The man said that it was painfully acceptable and asked the demon to stop playing around. He thought about what he could move, and from the looks of it, he lessened the blow with his levitation. The hero realized that judging from Alicia's condition, it was impossible to waste much time here. He figured he would deal with this guy in less than 3 minutes. The demon turned to him. He said that the guards would definitely not show up soon, so he killed them all. He said he had planned to watch a little longer, but something happened. He said that Alicia said she wanted to apologize for what happened during the day and came to him in the middle of the night. Escaba said he thought it was so funny that he couldn't help himself and hit her. He said their enjoyment of the world led the hero to fall. Corleo told him to shut up. He said he had had enough of this chatter and that he had no more feelings for him. He said that all thoughts of that good guy or had some good reason for what that guy was doing, that it was all in the past. Demon asked what that even meant. The hero replied that it wouldn't even take him a minute to wipe him out, which is what it means. Escaba smiled. He used the Anonii mark magic shadow swimmer. He shouted to Corleo, knocking him down. He was kind of supposed to be his instructor, offering to try to master his mark magic perfectly. The hero thought about the fact that the mark is divided into 5 segments with reserves of powers, and they are absorbed clockwise, that the more powers the mark gives out, the faster the segments are spent. There were 3 reserves on his arm and 4 on the demon's arm. He thought that there were 3 reserves left and he couldn't waste any of them, that if Escaba was using shadows, it was logical that his target should be the light. He turned his attention to the light of the lantern. The shadows were beating down on Corleo. He couldn't dodge. He thought it was bad. He couldn't reach, and those shadows kept getting in the way. Those were heading towards him again from the back. The demon looked at the hero in surprise. He jumped up and used levitation to smash the lanterns with his feet. Escaba realized that he had used the inertia from the shadow and added his levitation to it. He said that it wasn't bad. The hero jumped aside. He thought that this trick had robbed him of one of his segments, but he had cut Escaba off from the power of the shadows that they were now on the same level. The demon asked if he thought they were now equal, then kicked Corleo hard. The latter flew off and hit the wall. Escaba pushed him so hard that the wall cracked badly. He said that the tag had two advantages, that the first was the magic of the tag and the second was the enhancement of physical abilities. He explained that the tag improved basic abilities in proportion to the experience gained, and that he and the hero were originally at completely different levels. He said that he had heard that Corleo's tag was special. He asked if it wasn't all that the latter could do, asking him to show it to him. The hero interrogated what the man had said. Escaba continued to beat him. He shouted, asking what was the matter. He shouted that the minute would soon pass, that he was only good with his tongue. The hero thought about how painful it was. He thought that as a child he had once fallen down the stairs and broken his leg, that it was the most painful thing he had ever experienced in his life, that since that day he had never experienced such pain. He realized that it was painful. Tears were flowing from his eyes. The demon shouted at him not to cry. He wondered if the one wasn't the one who was going to wipe him out. Corleo wondered. He wondered if the demon was too cool. Corleo had already awakened two abilities. The first was levitation and the second was healing. The hero thought about how he had already come so far, but for some reason he still didn't want to believe it. He couldn't let go of the idea. He didn't understand why it made him so sad that heroes and demon lords were fighting each other. Corleo stood up. Escaba shouted for him to fight. He shouted that this was the world he had fallen into, that he should not run away from reality, that he had no choice. He shouted to fight him as if he wanted to kill him. The hero realized that this was reality. He was sure it was an inescapable reality. He thought of Alicia. He realized that he had to act, not hesitate. He thought that right now he didn't need rage or doubt, that right now he would just do anything. His mark lit up brighter. Corleo remembered Alicia saying that the mark reacted to emotions, that one should try one's best to visualize as clear a goal as possible. The hero quickly ran up to the demon and punched it hard in the stomach. Blood spurted from the man's mouth. Corleo thought that he had to save Alicia, that this was his only goal. Corleo hit the demon hard. He marveled at how agile his body was. He thought it wasn't just that his wounds were healing too. He didn't know what was happening, but he realized that he was doing well. Escaba pulled a lighter from his pocket. He lit it. He lit the fire and said that his weapon was shadows, that of course his enemies would try to get rid of the light, that this disadvantage he had bridged. He said it was time for round 2. The girl asked Panelo how long she should look at it, adding that they would mutiny the boy. The man replied that they had received evidence that someone was behind Escaba's actions, and it was someone who knew the root of the incidents in question. He said that the girl shouldn't go in there until they know the truth or the demon strikes Corleo. Ta asked if he thought he was being too harsh. She said he should work on that, and that girls don't like that sort of thing. He tried to stop her, but the girl had already jumped out of the window. She flew down confidently. The girl used the magic of Kirakira Bosei's mark, a shimmering star. Something flew right in front of Corleo. A huge shadow crashed into the wall. The demon was puzzled. He thought that just then, for a second, his gaze flicked in the other direction. The girl landed between the guys. She shouted that she was the one and only the great idol, the demon lord Minerva, that she was gorgeous appearing on stage. The guys were perplexed. Escaba asked her if she was like him, if she was also a demon lord from another world. He asked why she was on the side of the heroes. The girl stuck out her tongue. Minerva told him to listen to her carefully, calling her petty. She said that guys under 190 centimeters didn't interest her, and if she had to choose, wounded guys weren't so bad. The girl put her arm around Corleo, which made him embarrassed. Minerva said that she would get straight to the point, so he had to keep his head down. She said that Alicia was fine, that she was on his side and would fight Escaba. She said she also had one more request for the hero. She asked if he understood everything. The boy shouted that he understood everything. Minerva replied that was great and she was glad he was so clever. The girl suggested that he should get right down to business. She asked how old he was. He replied that he was 18. The girl said she was 20, so he should address her as ma'am, calling him boy. So he did. She used a shimmering star and the demon a shadow swimmer. They directed abilities at each other. The girl attacked. Escaba thought he now understood what she was up to. Minerva swooped down on him. The demon said that basically, she had decided to distract him with her pathetic stars, and it turns out her tag magic is bullshit. The girl shouted at him to keep that opinion and his breath odor to himself. Suddenly, he kicked her hard in the stomach. A star appeared in the girl's hands. Escaba didn't realize what was happening. His gaze began to dart from side to side. Minerva approached him from behind. She took his hand and asked if it was a handshake with a fan. She said no problem, and he directly caught little minis and tossed it towards the window. The demon broke through the glass and flew into the house. The girl jumped after it. Punches were heard. Corleo thought that there was definitely no reason for him to go in there, but it was a chance worth taking. He ran into the house and saw the demon and Minerva wrecking it. The hero was surprised. Escaba asked Minerva if she was familiar with it. He said it was called electricity. The Ta asked what he was saying. She shouted that his world was backward. She asked if they had CDs. The girl landed on the window so that it cracked. She used magic and went round the demon again from behind. The one grabbed her leg and lifted her up. He said those ugly stars were useless if he grabbed her. He began to climb up on his shadow. Escaba held the girl and smiled contentedly. She jumped back on one of the rocks, deftly dodging the shadow. The demon turned to her and asked why she was on the side of these heroes. She said he was clearly unpopular, that the idols were kind to everyone, calling him a one-eyed man. She threw him out the window. Watching him, Minerva told him not to misunderstand her. She said it was not her fight. Corleo and Alicia flew out the window after the demon. The girl was telling the hero to carry Alicia through while she fought the demon, that maybe the two of them would have the guts to fight it back. Alicia used the magic of the mark. She remembered Minerva telling her to drag the demon in properly and used fortification power. She struck so that Escaba fell, shattering the ground. Corleo, with Alicia in his arms, landed carefully. He asked if she was all right. The demon's hand twitched. The hero was surprised that the one could still move. He said that the one probably used the shadows that were cast from him to reduce the damage from the blow. Alicia was surprised. The demon said something about releasing. Suddenly, a man in a cylinder appeared behind him and said that was enough for now. Everyone was shocked. Minerva said that the creep had come. The man said he told him not to kill Corleo, that he had sent Escaba here to fulfill the role of instructor, in case he hadn't forgotten. He said he'd be glad if the man would just watch the hero a little longer. The hero thought about the fact that this guy smelled of death, that the feeling seemed familiar to him. The man asked the demon if anyone had made an impression on him. The man replied that he had not, and that the warriors in this world were rather unremarkable. He said that there had actually been one, but he did not know how strong he was, but the smell of blood had thoroughly soaked his body. Someone turned to the guy in the hat and said he believed he was behind the whole incident. The man asked if he could keep it short and replied that it was none other than him. The inquirer was Panelo. He asked the chap in the hat what about the fellow laying it all out in the open, especially his guts and plan. He firmly refused, adding that he would not accept the guts. The guy in the cylinder said it was starting to get crowded here. The hero thought that guy was behind everything. He didn't understand where the guy came from. The guy apologized and said he only wanted to talk to little Corleo. The guy smiled widely. Minerva, Escaba, Corleo, and Alicia began to be pulled under the ground. Panelo didn't understand what was happening. Everyone except him and the guy in the cylinder had disappeared. He thought that now there were even more strange tricks. He asked if the guy in the hat had decided to leave him out of it. The man replied that an old man should stay out of the affairs of youth. He snapped his fingers and a huge monster appeared behind him. He said that this one suited him better. Panelo quickly jumped at the monster, attacking it with his sword. The guy in the hat was surprised. He didn't understand what was wrong with this old man. Panelo was ready for the next attack. The guy said he would deal with him later. The old man went underground. Guy said that there really were. The guy said he would deal with. The girl said with a smile that she was Minerva, that she really liked to talk. She asked what about Alicia. The girl replied incredulously that she didn't really like it. The demon told her not to be such a boo, that she wasn't a bad demon lord. But there was something. There was a big monster in front of them. Alicia said that they didn't have time to talk right now. Minerva said that this one sucked. She asked the girl if she could move. The one replied that she could manage. The demon thought that she wasn't, that the one had lost too much blood, that her bones were probably broken. She thought that covering the girl during the battle would be a real burden. She decided that she would have to do what she could and used the flicker. The guy in the hat was going underground somewhere. He appeared in front of the hero and apologized for keeping him waiting. He said he thought he should introduce himself first. The boy said the boy could call him anything Corleo wanted, but suggested he call him Gisha. The hero thought about Alicia and the others not being here and the one who separated them. Gisha called him an unhappy child. He said that if the one was going to blame someone, it should be that intruder, Evan. He said they were both just imitations, so he offered to be friends. He took off his hat and asked if the hero agreed. There was a strange eye on his forehead. Seeing the boy's perplexed face, he asked if he was surprised. Gisha said that he needed the magic mark of the demon Lord Enda's mark, so he had transplanted it to himself, but it had weakened so much that it had become useless. Corleo asked why the man was telling him all this. The fellow replied that the reason was that it was in favor of his purpose. He said that Endi regenerates his power by devouring the tags of others, that he had already let him eat one, but that it was not even close to enough, that in essence he needed high-quality tags to achieve his goal. He said that he especially needs a hero tag. The boy thought that Gisha was very spry. The one said he wanted to see how much the hero's mark had developed. He asked to be allowed to check everything personally. Gisha saw Evan's face in front of him and a bright glow. He jumped back with a scream. Corleo was puzzled. The guy said that it was wonderful, that development was in full swing, and compared to what he saw in the cemetery, it was just heaven and earth. The hero was shocked. He juxtaposed Grisha's words about already letting End eat one mark and the loss of Mama's hand. The boy said he knew Evan's tag would do that. Suddenly the hero made a dash and hit the man with his fist. He screamed, asking the guy to tell him how the guy could do that. Gisha replied that it was obvious that all people strive to fulfill their dreams. He reached out to Corleo and grabbed his face hard. He asked if the boy wanted to say that he believed what Escaba had said. He screamed that it was all a lie, every word of it, that the hero was such a driven goody-goody fool that he would just belly up now. He screamed that it was his fault, that Alicia had suffered so much, that he shouldn't blindly trust the demon lords. The hero cried. He remembered Alicia and her words. His tears were flowing. Suddenly he managed to break free. He hit himself on the head with his fist. Gisha said that one was creepy. Corleo thought about the need to calm down, that he didn't have time to cry like a baby, that he needed to calmly assess the situation. He asked the guy where he had moved Alicia and the others to. The guy replied that they were near the copy of Enda, and that they had probably been eaten by now. The boy reached for the file. Rolling up his sleeve, he told Gisha to bring Alicia and the others back to the dormitory, and if he didn't, he would cut off the mark. He said that he had 10 seconds before he would do so, shouting briskly to bring them back. The boy told him to stop and that this joke was not funny. He thought about the fact that the boy was really ready to go for it, that he hated those eyes of the move do-gooder. He said that he didn't give up his mark now, and in fact, he would appreciate it if the hero further improved its quality. Gisha remembered something and said that he almost forgot to report something. He said that thanks to Evan and En's intervention, the law about the need for a pairing of a hero and a demon lord had long been destroyed. He said that he had already brought more than a dozen heroes and demon lords here. The guy shouted that the heroes and demon lords just had to fight hard, and fulfill the duties intended for them by those roles. He was screaming for them to live their lives for a single purpose, and that was to provide him with quality marks. Gisha kept shouting that there was no hope, that there was nothing they could do about it, that a new bloody era awaited them, that he should enjoy it. The boy woke up in the courtyard of the hostel. He immediately thought of Alicia and walked forward. Suddenly there was a flash of light. Minerva and Alicia appeared in front of him. The former was covered in blood. Alicia and Corleo looked at each other. Tears streamed down the boy's face. Heroes and demon lords will clash. It is an immutable and inevitable reality. And after such a painful realization, he saw something. The hero said he would end the era of the hero and demon lord struggle. He saw a glimmer of hope. Gisha said that he had a little over 1,000 copies of Enda stored in his head, and the 3 that Panelo had slew had the power of somewhere around 50 copies. He said that no ordinary hero or demon lord could resist such power. He asked the old man where in that one had such power. The one replied that it was just training. Gisha said that he was joking, that such strength could not be achieved by ordinary training. Panelo told him to stop with this silly conversation, or he will soon freeze here. Gisha laughed and said that he had one last question. A huge monster appeared behind the old man's back. The boy asked if he had picked up his grave. The old man answered in the negative, adding that he was afraid his health was just spilling out of him. The hero woke up and realized that Minerva was sleeping. The hero woke up, he was frightened and screamed loudly, falling off the bed. This made the girl wake up too. He asked her what she was doing. The one replied that she could not sleep unless she hugged something. Ben peeked into the room and asked Corleo if he had a minute. The man answered in the affirmative. The guy said that his superiors wanted to talk to the hero about the events of the previous night. At this time, he was thinking about what he had just seen. The hero turned to Minerva. She responded. He thanked her for protecting Alicia. The girl told him not to speak so formally, and that formal speech was not his. When the hero came out, Ben told him that the previous night had proved to be a formidable test and that he had fought honorably. Remembering Escaba's words about the guards, Corleo said sadly that men had died. The boy interjected. He said that no one died. He said he thought the demon was bluffing to provoke the hero, that area was part of the dormitory that no one was using at the moment. He said he was concerned about whether Mr. Panelo would be able to return without getting lost. He added that he did not know how strong this Gisha was. Ben said that it is not at all the strength that worries him here. In training room number 2 of the Central Military Headquarters, Corleo was diligently hitting a punching bag. He was thinking about levitation and healing. Now he was sure that he was gradually being exposed to all kinds of tag magic that Evan used. He hit the pair so that it swung very hard. The hero thought that in that case there was only one thing left for him to do, and that was to study these powers and master them. He thought that he knew what he had to achieve in order to achieve it, that he needed the powers. Suddenly, someone said that there was no need to beat this ruin, that he would help in training and also throw the stone off his chest. It was Minerva. She said that against the number 1 idol the odds here are massive, just not the hero. They fought in a battle against each other. The girl was noticeably winning. After her next attack, Corleo said that he kept wondering what an idol was. Minerva replied that it is an entertainer, that they dance, sing, hold popularity contests, are adored by fans, and most importantly have fun with them. She said that they are wildly popular Mahachi idols where you have to knead each other to the ground, that everyone's favorite artiste and part-time fighters, that's what idols are. The hero was very surprised. The girl said she has a ton of fans who love and honor her. She said that love is important, that the art of defense requires love in the soul, and that Corleo lacks the power coming from love. Thoth shouted that he didn't know what she was clinging to about that love. But he remembered one thing clearly. The hero remembered Alicia's proposal. He said that he was the meaning of Alicia's life. Minerva was very surprised. She laughingly interjected and said she had no idea what she meant. They continued their training. Corleo casually put his hand on the girl's chest. She was in a stupor. Realizing what had happened, he became embarrassed and shouted. He continued to scream and asked for forgiveness. Demon said that a guy shouldn't freak out like that because he lightly touched a girl's breast. She said she is famous for having a better figure than meets the eye. The girl asked if he had anything to say. Corleo shouted in embarrassment that her body was like a wall that could not be moved. Alicia was working out with dumbbells. Seeing this, Minerva was surprised. She asked what they were doing and if Alicia was working out too. She asked where Corleo was. Demon replied that he reported that he was still practicing. She said the girl should rest, and as it was, she had been hit the hardest. Ta smiled. She said that the hero looked at her with tears and Mrs. Minerva had to endure so much because of her weakness. She said that her mum was gone and she had nowhere to go back to, so she no longer wanted to be the one who was forever protected. She said she was going to be the meaning of living on for Corleo. The demon was surprised at first and then laughed. As the trio gathered, Panelo walked in on them. He was all beat up and said he was exhausted. Ben told him it was a great job. The old man said he never managed to finish him off. The hero remembered Ben's words that it wasn't the strength that he was worried about. He was very surprised. Panelo said he came to them with a question. He asked what the temperature was in the places they had been teleported to. Alicia wondered. Minerva said it was cold there. The hero said his place was too. The old man replied that they had established 2 facts. He said the first was that the enemy's teleporting ability had some limitations and the location he was moved to was similar to theirs. He said that it was possible that Gisha was only able to move them to pre-selected locations, and if he wanted to kill them, he could have just dropped them into the ocean. Panelo said that the second thing that follows from this is that his base is located somewhere in a cold region, and he could state with certainty that it was the climate of northern Persimmon. He said that was the end of it and asked Ben to contact northern headquarters. He accepted the order. Suddenly, Corleo shouted that Gisha needed their marks, and to crush his aspirations, force was needed. He confidently said that more allies were still needed. He said that if Gisha wanted the heroes and demon lords to fight each other by developing their marks, they would recruit them as allies. The hero said that they are capable of working together and are willing to prove it. At this time, Gisha came to Escaba. The demon said that he looked lousy. Gisha replied that he underestimated Panelo. He said that this grandfather is some kind of natural wonder and asked what was wrong with him. He said that his stock of ends had been depleted by 500 individuals and that was a loss. The demon said not to forget his promise. Thoth replied that he could rely on it. He said that he would not give up his own, that the seeds had already been sown. At the same time, in Central Persimmon, a chap was sitting behind the bar. He said the dish was delicious and he was ready to praise it for hours, that the cook deserved a promotion. The guy thanked. The guy turned to the master chef and said goodbye. The fellow asked to pay the money for the meal. The guy had a mark on his hand. It was a hero. He asked again about the money. He shouted at the master chief that he dared to demand money from the hero and should prepare for revenge. He was shocked. Mum was on the phone with the hero. She said she would put more guards from the Eastern Army out to look for the foreigners. Corleo thanked her. She started to say something as she heard someone's voice. The girl asked the hero if it was the same phone. He asked to wait and talk not now. The woman heard screams in the receiver. Minerva told Corleo that he would be her hugging pillow while she slept. Tot replied that of course it was just for once. He apologized to Mummy and said he would call her back later. She was shocked. The woman screamed that he had been ripped out. The guy asked her where it was ripped out from. She screamed that some temptresses had ripped Corleo out of his shell. The team was in Central Persimmon, Western Rita County. Alicia asked in surprise if the picture in front of her. The hero said they weren't here to suffer nonsense, that they were on the lookout for a hero who didn't pay for food. Ben said that there have been many reports of a non-food-paying man calling himself a hero. He said that they wanted the team to go around the area affected by his attack. Ben said that there have been many reports of a non-food-paying man calling himself a hero. He said that they wanted the team to go around the area affected by his... Minerva suggested that they split into two groups. She said that Alicia wasn't used to modern civilization yet, so she would go with Corleo. As those were leaving, she turned to the girl. The demon told her to grab the hero, take her to where the two of them would be alone. Alicia blushed with embarrassment. The hero asked what was the matter and if she wanted to go to the bathroom. The girl replied that it was nothing. She suggested to keep walking. As they walked, she said that the search area was too big for a normal freeloader. Corleo replied that he didn't even know if they would have any luck finding it. Suddenly, they saw a guy jumping on the rooftops while a man shouted that he didn't pay for his food. The heroes shouted in one voice that they had found him. The hero said that Alicia wasn't well yet, so would just follow him. She asked what he would do. The one replied that he would go to make sure. The guy made another jump. He ran, not understanding why they were trying to take money from him even though he was a hero. He didn't understand these people and their lack of common sense. Suddenly, he heard someone yelling for him to stop. Corleo was running after him very fast. The boy was surprised that the man was running at his speed. The hero shouted asking him to stop. He shouted that he was not going to fight. The guy noticed the mark and attacked him. He asked what it meant, what it was spotted, and if he was the creep who used portal sorcery. Corleo thought about the one who was real and still didn't understand the situation. Alicia shouted to him from below. Seeing her, the guy asked in surprise if she was a princess. Abandoning Corleo, he jumped down to her. The girl was surprised. He bowed, and apologizing for the question, asked if she was the princess of Volvid. The latter replied that her name was Alicia. The boy roared and shouted that she was Princess Volvidia. The girl also cried. He picked her up and ran somewhere. The hero thought that jerk. He thought that one was pretty fast, and even with Alicia in his arms, his speed didn't drop. He decided that he had no choice and would have to increase the heat of physical effort. Minerva had told him that there were two types of physical amplification, namely standard and expendable segments. She said that she did not advise using the latter, that his body might not be able to withstand the strain, and in fact, if one were to decide to do so, one would have to expend only one segment, for if one expended two, the bones would begin to crumble. She remembered that Corleo had a treatment. She said that if it came out that way and the situation required him to win at all costs, he should use it. The hero caught up with the guy and grabbed him by the chin. He shouted for him to give up Alicia, whereupon everyone flew in different directions. Corleo managed to catch the girl in his arms. He shouted that he had said he would not fight, asking to be heard. The lad replied that no wretched fool would order him about, and he obeyed only the princess. Alicia shouted for the fellow to listen to what Corleo was saying. The lad agreed. He asked again about the other world. The hero said he didn't think the fellow would immediately believe it. The fellow replied that he had a vague guess. He said that the princess was much more elegant and sophisticated, that he noticed something while he was carrying Alicia, but pretended not to notice. He said that maybe he just didn't want to notice. The guy said that he would help them, that he had his own reasons for going home, so he would catch Gisha, that somehow, since he was able to transport him to another world, he would be able to bring him back as well. He said that he would kill the demon lords at all costs, that he would act on his own and personally capture Gisha. Corleo shouted for him to wait, that it couldn't be done that way. The boy ran across the roof. He thought about how the princess had always lived unashamed of her dreams. She turned to Ralfred and said that they had signed a peace treaty with the Demon Lord's army, so they would get more resources and start to prosper. The princess said that all these people live without wanting to live, however they also die without wanting to die. She said that they should change things and devote themselves not to revenge but to the people. The girl said that she wanted the people to be glad that they had come into existence and carry that thought through to their last years. The girl asked if this was not marvelous. A battered Ralfred looked at her severed head. He asked the demon why he had done it. The one asked who was really to blame. He asked if it was the fact that she was human or that he was a demon, whether the stupid markings were to blame. Alfred pondered what the princess was thinking in the moments before she died. He had cried out in tears that he would kill the demon lord, that he would find him even in the farthest corners of hell. Suddenly flames rose behind Corleo's back. Turning around, he didn't realize what was happening, where the pillar of flame had come from. He wondered if it was Ralfred, that it couldn't be. The one at this time remembered the words of the princess that people do not want to live live and die without wanting to die. He thought he would carry through the will of the princess that she did not want to accept the idea. He fought with Minerva and said that he had to destroy evil, that it was a fact. The girl asked if those were too loud words for a penniless freeloader. Ralfred and Minerva fought. The hero remembered the guy's words that he would kill demon lords at any cost. He thought it was a disaster and they met after all. At this time, Ralfred swung his sword hard. The girl at this time used shimmering star mark magic and the guy's vision blurred. At this time, she was able to attack him and told him not to play with fire. Suddenly, the guy was able to capture her with flame shackles. She was surprised. She thought it was fire shackles, which means this guy controls flames. Ralfred quickly pulled her towards him. He dragged her into the building with the statues through a broken window. Minerva managed to kick him with her foot. She used the mark magic again and freed herself from the shackles. The boy realized that she had forced him to take his attention away from the shackles. The girl shouted good rant and kicked him with all her might. She went downstairs and concluded that she could not be defeated. The guy sealed himself into a rock. Minerva thought that he had definitely broken both her legs, that he was too used to fighting to the death, and she could see that the environment in his world would be tougher. She thought she couldn't take him down and would have to seize the moment and get the hell out of here. The girl asked him if he wanted to hear the story. Ralfred declined. He used the magic of the Kakainan marker Blazing Inferno. The entire building was surrounded by flames. He said he surrounded the building with a storm of flames and no one would come in or out. The boy said that meant this place would become his grave. Minerva thought for a moment. She said it all started when she lived with her mum. The boy reminded her that he had given up the story. The girl continued. She said it was a disgustingly bright, sunny day then. She screamed that it was far, far away from here. Ralfred shouted for her to listen to him. The teacher told her that before the events of 1,000 years ago, there was a race of humans in opposition, and it is said that there was an antipode of the demon lord among the humans, that is, a hero. She said that there is an interesting fact that in those days their average height was 15 centimeters shorter than the present height, and this is the result of the strengthening of the demon blood. Little Minerva walked into the classroom. She apologized for being late. The guys were discussing why the girl was covered in abrasions, talking about her mum, that she had an explosive temper. One of the girls asked not to be forced to say it out loud. Minerva listened to this. She sat alone on the grass after school. The adult Minerva said she hoped today was not one of her dreadful days. She thought about the fact that, relatively speaking, she did not hate her mother, that on good days the one was kind, and even as a child she realized that being a single mother the one was trying her best. When she was 7 years old, a mark appeared on her arm. Depending on the magic of the demon lord's markings can shut down in a government facility, but the girl was deemed harmless and given a choice. She asked her mum if she was sure and said that if she left, her mum would be subsidized. She asked if mum was sure about the money. Na called her silly. She sat on her knees in front of her daughter and said she was her treasure. She said she could handle it, that family was about something else entirely, so she asked her not to talk about such sad things. The girl agreed. 3 days later, her mother sold Minerva and she became a bully. She wanted to find a comfortable place for herself, and that desire burned inside without ceasing. But no matter where she went, no matter what she did to whom, there was no way her soul could find fulfillment. One day she received an offer to become an idol, and she succeeded. The girl fought confidently in the ring. From the stands, people cheered her on, shouting her name. Their need gave her that comfort. She felt satisfaction and it consumed her, but losing once, she lost a bunch of fans. Minerva was horrified to realize that her once loving fans had turned their backs on her. Childhood memories came flooding back, and she could only sleep 5 hours a week. She found out that her mom had recently passed away, but the girl thought so, for that one would surely have come begging for money. She accepted it calmly. The girl reflected on the fact that her mother's favorite phrase was that one should love others, hoping for nothing, and one day it would be rewarded. She thought about the fact that her pathetic undermother's words would be her last memory before she died, and that it sucked. The wounded Minerva lay against the wall, bleeding. Ralfred said that it wasn't bad tag magic but full of gaps. He wondered if it was the demon lord. He asked the girl if she had anything to say before she died. He thought about the fact that he didn't feel bloodlust in him. The boy, swinging his sword, thought about not having any doubts, killing the demon lord and sticking to his oath. He asked Minerva if anyone would give a damn about her. He said he had more or less a sense of who was loved and who wasn't, asking her to share it with him. Ta thought about how she wanted to find a place where she felt comfortable. She felt that if they were around people who were loved, would get at least crumbs of that love. She said that she envied him. The girl remembered her mother's words. She thought that even after death, she was still a pain in the arse and had left a lousy gift. She thought about not remembering her mother's face, not her voice, that only words were left, restraining her. She mentally asked her mother if she was glad, calling her a useless old woman. Corleo burst into the building. He was enveloped in flames and shouted to Minerva. The girl looked at him in surprise. Ralfred thought that it was impossible, that there was no way that he could have come through the firestorm alive, that his mark magic was reducing damage or healing. He realized that this couldn't be possible, because the hero had used some sort of levitation power when he caught up with her. The guy couldn't believe that Corleo could use two-tag magic. Suddenly, his sword broke into 2 pieces. He didn't realize what it was and assumed a slashing attack. Corleo was pointing with his fingers. Ralfred asked what kind of marking magic it was and who he even was. The hero shouted for him to move his hands away from Minerva. Ralfred asked what kind of marking magic this was and who Corleo was. The one stood confidently across from him. The guy thought healing, levitation, cutting, that's at least 3 magics already, that he had never heard of such a thing. Corleo thought about the mark reacting to clear targets, that he was starting to pick up on something, and that was roughly how Evan's mark worked. He thought he needed to realize even clearer. The hero set his sights on protecting Minerva. He swung his arm. Ralfred was also ready to strike, but the hero disappeared. The hero set his sights on protecting Minerva. He swung his arm. He asked Minerva if she was all right. The latter asked if it looked like. She said the guy burned her eyelids, messed up her eyesight to undo the mark magic, that Corleo didn't stand a chance. She asked why he even came. She blushed and asked again why he had come for her. The one replied that it was because she was her hope. The girl embarrassedly asked again. He said that he thanked her for saving Alicia, that if he had lost her then he would have been devastated, that Minerva had shown him the way, so saying that he was doing the right thing. The hero said that this is why he no longer doubts and cannot lose her and this fight is his. Ralfred thought that Corleo's ability was unusual but still not much of a threat, and the situation had not changed. He told the hero to leave, that he was going to kill the demon lord. The man shouted that he wasn't going anywhere, that Minerva wasn't bad. He said that they were not enemies, that they could help each other. Remembering the death of the princess made Ralfred more angry. He shouted, asking what Corleo could possibly know about him at all. The latter shouted back that he had said no such thing, so he wanted to discuss everything. They clashed in battle. Once a princess in the palace went down to the prisoner. She asked the boy if he was Ralfred. He looked at her in silence. She said her name was Wolvita and asked if he knew her. The boy replied that he did, and that she was the daughter of a rotten, arrogant noble. He said his tooth gives that a hero born into the slave caste was in no way part of their plans at all. He had a mark on his hand. He said for them to wait and he would make sure that all the nobles got their revenge cold. The girl began to remove his shackles. Ralfred asked in surprise what she was doing. The princess asked for forgiveness. She said she didn't know which key fit. His hand came free. Volvita said the leg shackles remained. She asked him to sit still. The boy did not understand what was happening. He thought about the fact that Princess Volvita was born in a marriage of royalty of human and demonic lineage that was political and arranged to enforce the idea of coexistence between humans and demons. They were walking through the woods and the girl was telling them that she was going to have a baby brother or sister soon. She said she wanted a boy to be born, and whether he would be human or demon. Ralfred said he didn't care. He asked if she was sure, for he could kill her at any moment. The princess replied that she didn't mind, and asked if he could do it after she solved the country's problems. She said that she wanted to deal with slavery, infighting, discrimination, poverty, that the world here was rather artificial. She turned to Ralfred and asked him to serve her. She said that she trusted him with her destiny, so she asked him to trust her with her life. The boy later heard that apparently a fake execution was organized the next day. He would be fascinated by the girl's striking purity. 2 days later, Princess Velvidia had a younger demon brother. And 18 years later, she was beheaded by her older brother, a demon lord. In a cruel twist of fate, the princess was murdered by her own sibling, who had received the mark of a demon lord. The rage at the princess's murder only intensified the enmity between humans and demons, and the world she sought was defamed and perverted by the demon lord. Ralfred was sure that destroying evil and avenging the princess was his will on the right path. The sword, or rather what was left of it, was knocked from his hand, stabbed into the floor. Minerva couldn't believe that Corleo had become stronger than this guy. The one said that the strength of Ralfred's mark was dropping, and his clear target had blurred. He said that the guy had noticed it himself, that he no longer felt hostility towards Minerva. The guy shouted, asking for silence. Suddenly, he thrust something into Corleo's stomach. He thought it couldn't be. The hero was seriously wounded. He told the guy to listen, and listen carefully, calling him a stubborn sheep. He said his past, his mindset, his revenge, that he didn't know or understand anything about it, but no matter how cruel it was, no matter how much it justified everything, he didn't care. He said that there was no way this could be a reason to kill Minerva. Tears flowed from his eyes. Ralfred was in shock. Corleo swung his fist at this time. He gathered all his strength in his hand and was ready to strike. Velveeta had once told Ralfred that perhaps she would one day lose her way, in which case, she asked him not to hesitate and guide her on the right path. The boy asked what would happen if he were to lose his way. The girl turned round. She said with a smile that in such a case she would hit him properly. The boy hesitated a moment. He said he had kept quiet about it, but that frame dear to her heart when she was 8 years old had been broken by him. The princess smiled and punched him. Now, Ralfred was lying on the floor after Corleo's blow. He didn't realize when it had happened, when he had started to twist the princess's will and made her his reason for revenge. The hero asked if he had cooled his head. The lad answered in the affirmative. The hero said that the one was strong. The one took out 2 bottles from his pocket. He said it was a fast-acting medicine for burns and offered to treat the demon lord with it. He thought about the princess, about whether he could believe in that silly dream of uniting heroes and demon lords, at least while he was in this world. Distracted from his thoughts, he looked at Corleo, who was giving medicine to a satisfied Minerva. A little earlier, Corleo had stopped Ralph's rampage and got a cure for his burns. Minerva screamed. She told him to apply it more gently because it would cover more skin that way. The hero shouted for her to shut up and that he was aware. The girl was embarrassed, remembering the recent dialogue. She asked how tall he was. The hero replied that he didn't know, but a little over 170 centimeters. Minerva said that's what she thought. Ralph turned to them. He apologized and said that the princess had often said that guests should behave like locals. He asked permission to apologize for what he had done. He put his finger under the sword and said he would start with his little finger. Corleo shouted for him to stop. The guy yelled for them not to stop him, that this was how they dealt with things in his world. The hero yelled back that the guy was being completely out of place and asked him to stop. Minerva agreed, but said that she personally thought he could have chopped. The boy lowered his head. He said that he had lived in the service of his mistress for so long and didn't think that being alone, he wouldn't be able to make even the simplest decisions. The hero said that in that case he could serve him. The boy remembered how Velveeta had offered him to serve her. Corleo said that the one had barked on about catching Grisha and returning to his world, but those were all end goals, that they could wait. He said to first apologize to all the establishments he escaped from without paying, and that's where to start. He said that setting fire to a building is not an act that can be covered by an apology either. Ralph said not to worry, that the flames that covered the building were made safe, and in fact it would not harm the building. He asked to wait a little longer, adding that he would now remove it. Suddenly there was an explosion. Alicia ran into them. She asked how they were, adding not to be afraid and that she was with them. Everyone looked at each other in surprise. Girls in maid costumes greeted the guests. Ben said he would deal with the partial destruction of the church, which would take a lot of money to fix, and on top of that, he would butter up the witnesses so they wouldn't talk, as well as cut down on all the fuss. He told the others to sort out the situation with the cafes and restaurants. Corleo and Ralph ended up doing the dishes. The cook yelled at them that they shouldn't be bored, because to pay them back they would be plowing to their heart's content. The boys agreed. The manager got a call saying they had a delivery order for a large crowd. Many plates of food were ready. The guys accepted the job and ran with the boxes to deliver the food. The hero asked Ralph if he could ask him a question. He asked what kind. Corleo asked why the man was eating free food in the first place. He said he realized he had no money, but still. The guy replied that in his world it is customary for the hero to work for free, and in return no one demands money from him for food or lodging. The hero said that the cultures of other worlds were indeed very different, and in his world there was not even any tag magic. Ralph interjected about Evan and End. He said that he hadn't met them personally, so he couldn't say for sure, but from the looks of it, they were extremely unusual. He didn't have time to say anything because a dog appeared in front of them. A woman screamed that her toddler had been attacked by a Doberman. The boys were surprised. They went downstairs and Ralph immediately took hold of the dog. The Doberman was calm in his arms. The boy turned around and saw Corleo hugging the boy. The man said that it really was possible to just grab the dog. Ralph remembered the conversation with the princess. He suggested getting back on topic about Evan and End's tagging. He said that they say the earlier one gets a mark, the stronger it is. For example, if a baby gets a mark in its mother's womb, but it would be called a maternal mark. He said that in his world such a thing is almost a fairy tale, that their power is incredible, and it is said that if an evil creature gains one, the world will instantly end. Guy said that if Evan and Enda's markings really were maternal, then Corleo definitely deserved to possess one. The hero looked at the woman hugging her son and then at the broken boxes. He wondered what they would do about delivering. The girls were singing into microphones at this time, already visibly tired. The audience shouted at them to just take the money, that it was posh. Later, the four of them went to headquarters. Minerva said she hadn't sung in a long time and it was a buzz. Alicia said she never wanted to do something like that again. The demon asked if it was true that she enjoyed it more than he did. The girl replied that it was not at all. Ralph walked with his head down. Corleo poked him with his elbow. The boy apologized to everyone. He said that he had dragged them into his personal selfish drama, that he had been stupid, and no apology could fix it. Minerva interjected. He asked for permission to help the three of them by betting his life on it while he was in this world. He said he would capture Gisha and then return to his world, not for revenge, but to protect people. He said that he wanted to destroy the demon lord Escaba. Everyone looked at him in surprise. The hero interjected. Ralph asked if they knew him. The demon said that if he meant that creepy one-eyed man, they had met. She asked what that meant. Alicia suggested that they are sent here in pairs. Gisha used the mark magic of the demon lord and a CICI Rue conclave of corpses. He said that it was an incredible mark magic, making possible anything that had anything to do with death, that with such power you could do anything, but he was only able to use less than 5% of the potential. Escaba asked what he was getting at. Thoth replied that Corleo had assembled a whole quartet, and that he had just finished assembling his four, including Escaba. He said that now he wanted to collect marks, of course, after a few battles, so that those would grow in quality. End said something to him. Gisha said not to worry and that he would keep his word. He swore that Endi would meet Evan. Escaba asked when they would fight. Gisha asked to let him think about it. He asked how about right now, for figures appeared above the headquarters. They were 2 guys and 2 girls, including Escaba. They regurgitated on the building. The headquarters announced that a group of suspicious individuals were currently sowing destruction in several locations in the central headquarters. Gisha said for them all to die. It was announced that it was most likely a surprise attack by heroes or demon lords, that all military personnel should prepare for evacuation or a possible clash. Corleo and Alicia were frightened. Right in front of them, Grisha's men broke down the wall and snuck in. The girl, seeing Alicia, said that a familiar weakling had been found. The latter realized that it was Kupshila, the demon lord from her world. Gisha told the 4 demon lords that he would soon send them to the headquarters of the Central Army, and they would only have to fight to the death a little bit, and of course all their efforts would be rewarded. He said that it could be resurrection of the dead, increased strength, eternal life, and so on. He said that once the magic of the Endasisi Ruarue marker conclave of corpses was completed, he would be able to grant any wish concerning death. He said for them to keep the portable Enda that they would be collecting the tags, so should take one of each. Gisha said there was one more thing, Corleo had delicious potential, so there was no need to collect a tag from him for now. He wished everyone good luck. The demon lords were taking over the headquarters. Kupshila used the magic of the mark. Alicia shouted to the hero to run. That girl used He Korigori Hell Hail, a huge block of ice through Corleo outside. He realized it was ice magic mark and thought it was incredibly powerful. While falling, Cupula grabbed him with the words that she found an interesting room over there. She created an ice slide that they used to get to the right place. She suggested they fight there. The girl threw the hero out the window, and on the fly he spotted a Bessian. She said that Grisha said that among the whole pack of demon lords and heroes Corleo is the most valuable, and also asked not to kill him. She said she thought she would have to beat him to a pulp. The hero asked if she was Grisha's assistant. Suddenly Alicia burst into the room, breaking the wall. She swung her fist hard. She almost managed to hit Cupula, but the latter created an ice shield. She shouted for the demon lord to bring the boy back. The latter asked what the girl was so dispersed about, calling her a running rat. Alicia tried to strike again, but the demon recoiled and used the ice to walk on the water of the pool. The girl approached Corleo and asked if he was all right. He answered in the affirmative and thanked. She said that she was the demon lord Cupula, that she came from her world, a heartless and cold-blooded demon lord who had ended the age of humans. The hero said that she is related to Grisha, in which case there is only one thing left to do. They realized that they had to stop her. Alicia looked round. She asked what this place was and why there was a pond in the building. The guy said it was just a regular indoor pool, probably for the military's training. The girl shouted that it was a bad thing, and such wet places were convenient for the demon lord to fight in. Suddenly, the whole room was covered in ice. The heroes noticed a strange feeling in their bodies. Cupula asked the girl if the man was hers, pointing at Corleo. She asked if Alicia had fled to another world to find the guy. She said the one pissed her off, calling her a useless slut. The girl's feet began to freeze to the floor. The hero shouted to her, realizing it was impossible to move. The demon lord said that none of them would be able to break her ice alone, that she would let Corleo live, but Alicia would go to her mother. The girl thought about the fact that she liked her mom's voice, that it made her feel like she wasn't alone. When she was little, her mom had asked her if she was all right. The little girl answered in the affirmative. She said that it just rains all the time and it makes it very cold. She asked when the rain would stop. The mother asked to let her think about it. The long rainy season lasted then for over 50 years. Such conditions were too compatible with the magic of Cupula's mark, and since the rain allowed her to attack any place, people began to live in isolation just to avoid becoming her target. Her mother told Alicia that she thought the rain would stop if she continued to be a good girl. At the age of 9, the mark of a hero appeared on her arm. Alicia, the girl's mother, was told that if anyone found out that their village harbored a hero, she might be attacked, so she should take Alicia and leave the village. The girl asked her mom as they walked through the forest if she should become stronger and defeat the demon lord. She hesitated. The girl asked if then everyone would live in peace. Mom replied that probably. She said that the next demon lord would think like her, that in the end, the best outcome would be if everyone just got along. Alicia asked her mother if she was having a hard time. The woman squeezed her daughter's hand. She asked to listen carefully and told her to try to find a kind person who would value her more than anything else in the world when the girl grew up. She said that it should be a person who, even in hard times, and when she felt like running away, would treasure her. Alicia told her mother that she was the dearest person to her. The woman laughed. The two of them spent 10 years on the run, and Mum developed a terrible abscess on her right leg and lost the ability to walk. She told her daughter to get to a place where Cupula wouldn't get her. She apologized and said that the girl had only hardships in her life. She said she hoped one day she would be rewarded for all her labors. She asked Alicia to live. The mother said she hoped, one day, she would find her reason to live on. The girl sobbed. She left alone in the rain. Alicia turned to her mother, but she was nowhere to be found. She hated the sound of the rain, for she thought it drowned out her mother's voice. Alicia saw her mum, but she couldn't hear her. She realized that she couldn't hear because her mum was dead. She turned to her mum and told her that she had found her mum, a reason to go on living. Through the ice, Alicia flew at the demon lord. The latter was surprised that the girl had broken through the ice herself. Looking at Corleo, she realized that it wasn't that, it was him. She shouted for the girl to move her hands away from the hero. Cupula created new pillars of ice. The girl used Gogo Rikariki, the power of strengthening. She broke the obstacles. The hero said that he had a flame in his hand, that it had appeared during the battle with Ralph, and he used it to weaken the ice. He said that he did not yet know how the magic of this demon lord worked, but if they heated their bodies with this flame, they would be able to move at least a little. Alicia replied that she understood. They got out of the ice. Corleo asked if the girl was all right. She answered in the affirmative. Cupula remembered her mother. She angrily called the heroes brats. Cupula marveled at the mark's fiery energy. Grisha had told her that the hero only had incarnated healing and levitation. The girl remembered his words about Corleo's mark being special. She thought that the one was developing faster than she thought, and if he developed other abilities as well, she would have to be wary even with those two weaklings. She changed her mind about beating him to a pulp. She said she would fight with a willingness to kill. The hero asked Alicia to give him her hand. She obeyed. She became embarrassed and then saw a flame appear in her hand. The girl used Corleo's flame plus the power of strengthening. Stones flew to the sides. She and the hero complained about how cold they were. Kupchula shouted that it was hot. The hero shouted at her. He asked why she was obeying Grisha. He shouted that he thought heroes and demon lords were just his pawns, that he didn't know how they benefited from it, but couldn't he see that they were just being used? Grisha told Kupchula that she would be rewarded for her labors. He said that, for example, he could resurrect her most beloved creature. The girl asked if any of the heroes had children. Those were confused. Alicia asked what the other question was. The demon lord said that Grisha could raise the dead. The heroes were shocked. The girl asked if they understood now. She said that they didn't understand, that it was impossible, that as long as their loved ones were alive, they wouldn't understand anything. Alicia said that naturally they would not understand. She said that everyone knows that reality is harsh and cruel, that scars remain forever and the dead are never seen again, that no matter how much people suffer pain and loss, they continue to live, even if they have to do it through force. The girl said stop trying to escape from reality and called Kupchula a cowardly liar. The latter replied that she was clear. Some creature began to appear from the pool. She used Hihikorigori's infernal hail. A huge monster appeared above the heroes. The girl wished Alicia to die. The latter shouted to Corleo. He replied that he understood. The wide-open maw of the monster rushed towards them. The girl made a punch. She thought she hit it with all her might, but it didn't even crack. The hero used the cut, and the monster turned to a pile of rocks. The demon lord asked how they. Two monsters appeared in front of them again. The girl asked what was next. Corleo thought she was mocking. He noticed that her marker supply was not depleted in the slightest even after such strong magic. He remembered that in humid locations, she almost doesn't need to spend any reserves for her tag magic. The hero thought that things would only get worse, and soon they wouldn't be able to hold back her attacks. He didn't understand what they should do, but he knew for sure that they needed to find a way to get out or a breach in her defenses. He turned to Alicia and told her to run. She was puzzled. Corleo said that from what she said she wasn't going to kill him yet, that they needed to minimize the damage and that was the best option. The girl asked what the man was carrying. The hero yelled for her to shut up and listen to him. He told her to get the hell out of here and run upstairs. The girl obeyed and ran. Kupchula asked if the one running away was real and if it was natural. She said that, as it was, Alicia was a coward who had been running away since she was born. The hero told her to shut her mouth. He ran up behind her and wanted to hit her, but she put up an ice wall. He said she was the only coward here. The other one questioned what he had said. The demon lord was able to grab him with magic and pulled him up. The monster almost reached him, but the hero managed to dodge. Kupchula told him to try to repeat who she was up there. Corleo said he had already told him she was a coward. He said that he and she were born in different worlds, that he had lived without care in times of peace, that obviously his ideas and values were different, but one thing he could say for sure. The hero said that hurting others for his own gain is wrong, and in fact, there is another person from her world that proves it. He said that Alicia is much stronger than her. Before that, Alicia asked if Kupchula, the demon lord from her world, would come to fight them, to let her settle the score with that one. She said that Kupchula was a cruel but sad demon lord, and to put an end to the string of murders was her duty as a bound hero. The girl said resolutely that she would stop Kupchula. Now, she leaped on the demon lord from above. The one realized what was the meaning of the request to go upstairs. Alicia said that when she had to react instantly, Ta always put up a wall to defend herself. Stones were falling from above around the demon lord. The heroes said with one voice that this cowardice was the breach in her defense. The girls tumbled down together. Kupchula landed hard against the rocks. The girl ran up to her. Corleo turned to Alicia. He said he was glad she had taken his hint. The girl replied that there was no way he would have told her to shut up and listen to him. She embarrassedly said she thought he was much more manly and cooler than usual. Alicia suddenly apologized and asked what it was about. She said it didn't matter and could be forgotten. The embarrassed hero agreed and shouted that they had won. Kupchula was sitting without clothes. The hero asked Alicia why she had undressed her. She replied that it was so that the demon lord could not use the magic of the mark. She said that until they could not adequately contain her powers, and so undressing her to let the ice drain her own powers was the most adequate way out. Corleo opened his eyes a little. The girl looked confused. He shouted that she had startled him and asked what she. Alicia said that he was looking kind of strange. The hero replied that they needed to keep an eye on Cupula after all. The girl agreed. The demon told them to shut their mouths. She said their heads were cracking. She said they were weak and should have killed her or chopped off her left arm. Corleo turned to her. He remembered that suspicious groups had been spotted in several locations. He asked the girl if she wasn't the only one sent here, what was going on, and why she was obeying Gisha. The hero said that if possible he would not want to fight her. The girl said that this kind of bollocks was easier said than done, that she was sick of these cliches. She said she was done and that was the deal. She said she didn't care about that, just as long as her son was resurrected. Earlier, Gisha had given her a portable Enda and told her to collect tags with it. He swore that he would revive her son, but in return, if she lost, he would take away her tag. The girl said she agreed. Portable End sat on her shoulder. Cupula said for Corleo to try to get stronger so that Gisha would regain End's power as soon as possible. There was a monster behind her back. The hero rushed forward. He grabbed the girl and pulled her away from the monster's bite. His eye was wounded. The demon lord's arm was bitten off, blood pouring from it. Corleo remembered that situation with Mama. The girl had asked him what he was doing and why he had saved her. He replied that he just didn't want even someone like her to die. Cupula thought he was too soft-hearted. She didn't understand what was wrong with this underdog hero. Someone picked up a copy of End. It was Gisha. He said that this situation was incomprehensible to the mind and asked what was the use of saving the demon lord. The hero recognized him. Gisha said he should thank Cupula for the mark, that he had accumulated somewhere around 10% of the original power of this magic. He offered to give it a try. The guy used the magic of the mark of CICI Rue Conclave of Corpses. Corleo froze. A little boy appeared, calling Cupula mummy. The latter shouted to him, calling him Eugene. Suddenly the boy began to melt and disappeared altogether. Gisha said that it was an abomination and that it stained his favorite coat. He said he believed that more from one mark was not worth expecting. Suddenly he received a punch in the face. He was done in by a hero with a flame at his hands. He asked how many more he should wound with his selfishness until he calmed down. He shouted, asking if Gisha had no heart at all. The one shouted that they hadn't seen each other for nothing, and the boy had grown so much, just like a relative's child. He thanked the boy for growing up for him. The loudspeaker announced that at this moment, the demon lords attacking the headquarters was joined by the one-eyed monsters rampaging everywhere. Said that they were similar to the monsters they had already received reports of, that they were currently in the corridor on the ground floor of Building B, the 502nd and 503rd offices of the first floor of Building B, and the second and third floors of Building C. Said that all military personnel should avoid these areas and evacuate. Corleo shouted loudly at Gisha, asking what he was doing. The latter replied that he was thinning the ranks, that no matter how strong that old man was, after all, he wouldn't be able to deal with a bunch of opponents in different places. The hero shouted for the one to stop, that if he wanted his mark so badly, he could take it right now. Alicia shouted at him not to. Corleo yelled for Gisha not to drag outsiders into this, that he should stop making them fight. The one replied that the boy's mark was still growing, and she wasn't ready for harvest yet. Suddenly Minerva appeared. She asked how he liked her mark. He and the hero looked at each other and she showed her tongue. Gisha said that he kind of Monica with her. The girl asked if the Beast Maiden was in question. She said she had beaten her, more like even rolled her. The boy said her mark was weaker than Cupula's. He wondered. He said it was a distinctive idea that would backfire for the day. Gisha said that if Minerva sided with him, he would no longer involve outsiders. Everyone looked at him in shock. Corleo didn't understand what the man was thinking. He was pondering that his words made no sense, that everything was too suspicious and that Minerva should not be given to him. The girl pondered. She replied that she agreed. The hero shouted at her, not understanding why she did so. She said that she had seen a bunch of these one-eyed men on the way here, and if they left them, there would be trouble. She said that if their side wanted to retreat, it would do them more good, and besides, even if it was only a guess, it was unlikely that Gisha was going to kill her right away. The one replied that she had guessed. Corleo shouted that there was no way he would agree and they couldn't lose her. Alicia agreed with him. Minerva said she'd already said she wasn't going to die and surely this move would save them. The hero shouted that she was just pointing her finger at the sky and there was no proof of that they couldn't trust Gisha. The girl said that his mouth doesn't know how to close at all. She kissed him on the lips. Corleo was very embarrassed. The demon lord said that he was coming to save her anyway and asked if that was true. The hero replied that he would surely come. The girl kissed him again. Alicia and Gisha, who were watching this, were embarrassed and blushed. Leaving, Minerva showed a finger up. Gisha said that now he was one step closer to his dream that Corleo should come. He said that if he wanted Minerva back, he would have to at least bring him a quality mark. He teleported the girl. Gisha retreated, taking Minerva prisoner in the process, and Corleo vowed to save her. He and Alicia stood there thinking. The girl asked if he was okay. The one asked if she could move, adding that they still had things to do. At this time, Ralph Red was fighting with Escaba. They were shouting at each other. The hero recalled Corleo's words about wanting to talk things over. A guy with a sword entered their room. Ralph shouted for him to run, but the demon lord Yuyu preparing an attack. The hero covered the guy with himself and almost crashed into the wall. The demon was surprised. He realized that he had taken off with the help of the flames so as not to receive a mortal wound. Ralph turned to Escaba. He asked why he had killed Princess Velvidia, his own sister, what had so twisted him, why he obeyed Gisha. He shouted for the man to answer. Something black appeared around the demon's feet. It began to teleport underground. The hero was confused. The other demons were teleporting as well. Ralph didn't understand why the one retreated. The one-eyed monsters that the military fought also began to melt before his eyes. Minerva told Corleo that everything would be fine, that Gisha had no reason to take her along if he was going to kill her right away. She said that what matters is what they do afterwards. She said she'd swiped a small demon lord here and that one was near the entrance. The girl said they had a bit of a tiff and she thought she could get that one on their side. She said that that demon lord has information about Gisha and should not miss such a chance. She told the hero to lure her to their side. Corleo found that demon lord and managed to pull her out of teleportation. The one was surprised. He said he was almost too late. Monica screamed loudly. The hero realized that she had slipped out. The girl quickly ran at him to attack. She asked how the hero would pay for it. The one didn't understand what kind of tag magic it was, or what her dog-eared ears even were. She yelled that Gisha had said he could only take them once, and now she couldn't go back. Corleo turned to Monica. The latter said she could not be fooled. She said that if you kill the hero Corleo, the root of all evil, then only smiles will reign in the world, and so said Gisha. She said the hero was a big stinking enemy. Tot was surprised. He thought how a child is being bred. He thought he could talk her teeth in then too. Monica used mark magic. Feathers flew around. She used Juju Gen mythical mammal formation. The girl flew upwards on her wings. Corleo was very surprised. He thought that her dog-like appearance was also a consequence of the mark magic. Monica flew out the window and said that while she retreated. The hero wanted to ask her to wait, but he saw a one-eyed monster in his belt. He thought it was the same monster that tried to eat Kupchula's mark. He jumped out of the window. The girl was abruptly pulled down. The hero grabbed her leg and asked her to stop. The girl shouted that he was annoying and asked what he wanted. The guy yelled that he needed her. Monica asked back in surprise. She padded over to him and jumped back. The girl thought this guy had groped her all over and now she was sure he liked her. She thought she was a demon lord and he was a hero and this is forbidden love. Corleo shouted to Monica. He asked if Gisha had given the thing she had by her belt. He shouted for her to get rid of it now. The girl replied that she did not want. The hero said that Gisha had given it to them to steal their tags and if she wasn't careful she would die. Ta shouted that he was lying and she didn't believe him. The boy asked why she was trying so hard to protect Gisha. The girl said that because he asked her to take care of her. She said he told her he trusted her, called her a good girl. She said she had finally found her place in the world. She screamed for him to stop lying. At that moment the monster came out of her belt and increased in size. Corleo took the girl's hand and ran. He pulled the girl back, the monster towering in front of him. Corleo thought that one swing of regeneration wouldn't be enough, so he decided that he would kill it with one shot. The monster was chopped into many pieces. All that was left of it were pebbles. Monica was shocked. The hero said that he thought the thing was trying to kill her before she gave out information about Gisha, and she was attacked because he prevented her from escaping. The girl pulled out a sword. Corleo knelt in front of her. He said that Gisha had kidnapped his comrade. He said that he came to find out about him. It is a fact that it is his selfishness and maybe the girl will be happier with Gisha, but Gisha is also using her for his own gain. He said that he can't promise that she will be safer with him, but he doesn't want to give her to Gisha. He asked Monica to stay with him. The girl was spinning those words in her head. It seemed to her that he was asking her to stay with him forever. The girl became embarrassed. She said that if he was so insistent, she had no reason to refuse. Corleo was pleased and thanked her. Suddenly someone shouted. It was Alicia who spotted the hero. She waved at him. She told him that she had given Cupchalu to the medics as he had asked, and she thought they had finished moving the wounded into the building. The hero said that was great and called the girl a good girl. She asked if that was the girl Minerva was talking about. Corleo replied that she was, and that she would cooperate with them. Monica tensed up. She shouted that she had actually changed her mind. Gisha said that Monica never came back, and in case she did, she was supposed to be eaten, but that didn't happen. He asked Minerva if she had done something. The girl replied that she didn't know, and maybe Prince Charming had sneaked her away somewhere. Gisha said that it was no big deal, and that Minerva would become a vessel anyway. The one reinterrogated. He said that she would become a vessel for the rebirth of the hero Evan, bearer of the maternal mark. They glanced back and forth. Gisha asked Corleo what he would do now. There are 4 demon lords on Grisha's side. 2 of them, Cupchalu and Monica, are in their possession. According to the report, Escaba escaped and Mr. Ralph was wounded, defending the officer who wrote the report. His condition is stable. Ben asked about the latter, adding that Mr. Panelo seemed to be with him. The one said that the demon was quite strong, had powerful attack mark magic. The old man said he wanted to cut off at least an arm or a leg of it, but it escaped. Ben said that the Central Army had suffered considerable damage. In addition, Miss Minerva had been kidnapped. The hero tensed up. He looked seriously ahead. Ben said that they hadn't completely lost. He said that they had managed to apprehend Monica, and once they got information from her, they should prepare to fight Gisha. He told Corleo that it was a great job, that Mr. Panelo was only good at fighting, so the boy was a great help. The old man apologized. They said that Mrs. Monica should arrive soon. A boy with glasses ran in screaming that Monica had escaped. The hero was shocked. He and Alicia ran. Corleo said it was because of the magic of Monica's mark. He said that the one is extremely flexible and versatile and can turn into different animals, that the one must have turned into a cat or a mouse and escaped. He said that he just couldn't understand why she would run away when she herself agreed to stay with him. Alicia thought for a moment. She said that maybe the one was just sulking. The hero asked what she knew. Suddenly he fell to the floor. He said that his legs could hardly move. The girl replied that he hadn't rested at all. Raindrops appeared on the glass. Corleo said that we should hurry. Alicia looked out the window. She told him not to worry. On a bench in the gazebo, Monica sat alone. She was sad, thinking about Corleo and Alicia. With anger, she called the girl a pig. Suddenly, the girl appeared behind her and grunted. Monica asked in surprise how the one had found her. The girl replied that she was going to look round for places to shelter from the rain, and she was lucky that the girl had found her at once. She said that getting caught in the rain while in a bad mood was a combination worse than anything else. And after all, no one likes to get their hair wet. The 2 of them sat on the bench. Alicia said that going to another world and all is amazing. She asked what Monica thought about it. She asked her to listen. She asked if the girl liked that character. She got embarrassed and blushed. Monica told her not to dare lie and that a dog's ears could pick up any lie. Alicia remained silent. The girl threw off her shoes. She said that she hated liars and privileged people like that one, that she didn't have parents yet, so she was different from them. The girl said that she doesn't have them anymore either. She asked if the girl had met Minerva. She said that the other one had the same situation. She said also Corleo's, although he mentioned an adoptive mother. She asked if it was true that she was not lying. Alicia said about Corleo that when she passed out from her wounds, he was there the whole time, as Minerva said. She said that when she woke up, she saw the hero all in tears and decided to pretend to be asleep. She recalled his serious expression and shaking hands. The girl said that he was a crybaby who liked to make himself look tough, and she liked it. She said she didn't want him to get hurt, and since Minerva had been kidnapped, she was sure he would get into more trouble. The girl picked up Monica's shoe. She said that the girl may not believe her, but she wants the girl to believe Corleo that he would never lie to her or humiliate her in her life. She asked her to stay. Monica said that she is still uncomfortable being on the same team as the hero, but she can stay with him. The girl called Alicia a cow. She asked if she was promoted that way. She remembered something. The girl asked if Monica had crossed a red light. They asked what else it was. Alicia said it was a big thing standing on the road like donuts on a stick. Monica said she didn't know, and I think she had only seen greenish ones. She asked what would happen if she crossed over. Alicia replied that she had been told that in such a case a curse would strike from afar and the person would die. Monica shouted that the one was lying. The girl replied that Corleo himself had told her that, so it was not a lie. The girl thought what a crazy world it was and that one should behave well for one's own survival. A hero with umbrellas approached them. He told Alicia that it was good that she had found the girl. The girl in the meantime galloped away. The girl noticed the umbrella. The hero said that it was raining after all. They asked why it was not uncovered then. Corleo replied that he had brought it to them, but could have opened it while he was walking. Alicia said what a fool he was. The hero said something suddenly occurred to him. He said that because of the three of them, him, Alicia and Minerva, only Minerva's mark magic had no attacking ability. Everyone in the study looked at him. Panelo asked what it meant. Ben said it meant that she was the perfect candidate for captivity. Corleo replied that that was correct. He said he realized it when Monica escaped so easily. He said that Gisha had confirmed her hunch that he wouldn't kill Minerva right away, and most likely meant that he was going to keep her. Monica lowered her head. The hero said let them know that he is keeping her in the plan. The reasons are unknown to them. The girl said that they are right. She said Gisha is not going to kill the tall woman. She said that he will make her a vessel into which he will summon that guy Evan. Corleo was very surprised and asked what that was for. The girl replied that she didn't know the details and who this Evan guy was either, but Gisha said that if he resurrected him, he would win. She said she knew he wasn't lying. Panelo asked the hero if this Evan is really that strong. The one replied that he thought it was still easy to say that he was sure the one had the power capable of destroying the whole world. The old man hesitated. He said that Grisha's ability to raise the dead is still incomplete, and the call of the spirit is the shortest way to improve it, so he needs a vessel, and since he has not yet done so, it means that Gisha lacks something. Panelo said that it turns out they still have time, in which case, he thinks their main task should be to locate the enemy base and rescue Minerva. Monica said that would not work, that no matter how strong the old man was, this attack was to prove that their team would not survive such a fight. Corleo turned to her. The girl shouted that this was a battle they would lose, and even with her help, Corleo and the cow would just go to certain death. The hero thanked her. The woman was surprised. He said that she was worried about them after all, that of course their enemies were scary and so be it, but he was more afraid of losing them all without doing anything. Alicia said with a smile that she had said the same thing. Monica turned away. She said that the hero Sadiko from her world had mark magic related to spirits and ghosts, that such a thing was not only available to Gisha, and meeting Sadiko would help them find Grisha's weak spot. A guy with glasses ran in to see them. He shouted that a report had come in that a hero called Sadiko had been spotted in Western Persimmon. Everyone was surprised. It was decided that they were going to West Persimmon. Panelo said he was going north to look for Gisha. He said his base was somewhere in northern Persimmon and he and the Northern Army headquarters would track it down. He said for the others to go west and find the hero Sadiko. Corleo told everything to Ralph and asked how his wounds were. The latter replied that they were not good, and most likely he would be of no use in the north now. He asked for forgiveness. The hero looked at him. He said that they would go to the cause, and that he would never forget his words as Ralph asked for permission to turn his life to help them. He said emphatically that they would surely get Minerva back. Ralph said that since he said so, he would follow him and soon join them. Someone turned to Corleo. Alicia was waving at him, and Monica was standing next to him. The hero turned his attention to the girl's legs and ears. The one replied that she was told not to transform so as not to stand out. She said she would leave her nose like that, as it would help track Sadiko. The hero agreed and offered to take the tasks apart in order. He said that Gisha was going to use Minerva as a vessel to summon the spirit, but since the latter was inactive, he was missing something. He said that given all of that, they would find a hero with spirit and ghost tagging magic to figure out how to deal with it all. He yelled that the games were over and it was time for them to focus. Corleo said that Sadiko Yuyu seen, so they are heading out. In West Persimmon, the team ended up at an amusement park. Alicia asked in surprise what this place was. Monica also asked what it was. The hero said that the park turned out to be not far away. A doll in the form of a bear met them at the Tuwerf amusement park. The bear said his name was Punch, that this park was built to honor the end of the war, that humans and demons were free and equal to each other. That was the motto of their park. He said that the park is not far from Central Persimmon and the trails here are as beautiful as his digestive tract. The girls marveled at what kind of creature this was. Alicia told Monica to stay away from the bear. The hero turned to Monica. He told her to proceed and that they were relying on her nose to sniff out Sadiko's location. The girl agreed and started sniffing around. She said that she was a full 8 years old, that she was an excellent woman who was perfect at her tasks. She ended up riding the roller coaster with a scream. Corleo asked if it would definitely work. Alicia said that she had recently spoken to Monica, and it seemed that she had been following Grisha since he had promised to resurrect her parents. She said that the girl had told her that in her home world adults were forever trying to use her, and she thought that now was the time in that one's life when she had the most freedom. The hero said that in that case a little distraction wouldn't hurt. Alicia sat on the bench all twitchy. Corleo suggested that maybe she wanted to, too. She replied that she didn't, and that it had nothing to do with their work. The hero agreed but said she was shaking worse than Monica. The girl replied that she was 24 years old and knew how to separate business and personal moments. A little later, the two of them and Monica squealed on the ride. After the roller coaster, they went spinning where they had just as much fun screaming. Alicia drank a drink and said it was very tasty, even sweeter than water straight from the spring. They rode the merry-go-round and then met the man in the doll costume again. Corleo watched them sitting on a bench. He said that after all, Alicia wanted to play too. He said let them have fun. Hero had been raised by the military, and as a result he had no experience playing with friends. All of his fun was limited to walking with Mama through historical museums. He stood up, gritting his teeth. Alicia shouted to him that Monica had news. The latter shouted that she smelled Sadiko and pointed in the direction. They came to a hot dog stand and bought some food. Alicia tried the first. Her eyes lit up at how much she liked it. She shouted that it was delicious and much more tender than frog meat. Monica asked what kind of world she was in. The hero turned to the girl. He asked if they were approaching the source of the smell. The one replied that of course she was not just playing, and they were not far from the source. She pointed upstairs and said it was there. Corleo asked if it was on a Ferris wheel. The girl offered to take a ride. Alicia asked if the thing was fast too. She said they were. The hero coaxed. He hesitated, then said he wanted to. The three of them went up in the stall, looking out the window with fascination. Monica, looking at the woman with the children, said what a strange world they had. The hero interjected. She asked how humans and demons could get along. He replied that apparently it was due to the actions of his predecessor, but he thought everyone wanted to get along far more than they thought, and such a sight was familiar to him from birth. The girl sadly said that she was very jealous of them. Suddenly, the Ferris wheel shook. Everyone was very surprised. They announced that the Ferris wheel had stopped due to a system error and that it was recommended that riders stay away from the doors and hold on to the handrails. Monica yelled out that it was Sadiko. She said the odor got stronger as soon as the wheel stopped. The hero hesitated. He looked to the side as he saw that the girl had fallen out of the door and was being held by a boy with his last strength. He yelled to Monica to turn into a bird and drop him there. He said he could only levitate, so he couldn't move freely in the air. The girl replied that she could. She recalled that she was told not to reveal herself or she would be scolded. Corleo said she would make up a bunch of excuses later. He asked if she wanted to make excuses for her inaction. He shouted to Alicia. She said she had broken through the passage. The boy dropped the girl and they started to fall together. The hero managed to grab the boy, resting his feet on the edge of the doorway. He said that the boy had done well. Monica, in the form of a bird, also caught the girl. The people downstairs were discussing that they had been frightened and that those two had rescued the babies in time. They began to discuss that girl had grown wings. Monica looked apprehensively at all these people. But they shouted that they didn't understand anything, but she was good, that it was great. They said it was good to be so small, that she had done a great thing. The girl got embarrassed. Corleo and Alicia watched as the one stood surrounded by people. The hero said the one looked happy, even blushing. He said Monica was very nice and asked what Alicia thought. Ta agreed. Corleo said that it was Sadiko's doing and they can't let it go. The girl replied that he was right. She said that they were dealing with a hero, but it looked like they would have to proceed with caution. She thought about it for a moment, then said that she only breaks things all the time and asked if that was true. The hero said it wasn't, trying to reassure her. Monica heard someone say that she had grown up. The girl began to sniff harder. She said the smell became clearer. The hero was surprised. The girl showed where the smell was coming from. The trio approached the haunted house. Alicia was frightened, only looking at it from the outside.